Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. Calling the meeting to order. Our secretary, John Niebling. We'll start with him to roll
Sure.
call.
Yeah, well, just let me say that this meeting's been on the schedule for many, many months, and so the board was properly noticed for this meeting, and also I can certify a quorum, because I can just look around and see everybody's here. So there's a quorum here, so those are two check marks. So the other thing that I need to have you do is, and I know I have given you all the minutes a couple of weeks ago or whatever to look over, and I didn't get anything from any of you saying that there's anything wrong. If there is, let me know, but otherwise, we probably should, from some board members, should be a motion to approve those minutes.
So motion.
Okay, so, very well. Take it over, President.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
All right, Gary, do we have our guests on yet?
No.
Shadia?
No.
Okay. I'll start with the president's report. Continues to be a very exciting year for the property. Our board's working really hard. We have an insurance committee who is actively seeking policies. Our renewal is October 15th, and what we are looking for is hopefully lower prices with full coverage. We have a number of irons in the fire, and you'll be hearing more on that shortly. We're replacing our aging and breaking Onity lock system with updated locks, which everybody has been made aware of. We will have more coming on that. We are upgrading our smoke detectors on the property to have all of our interior detectors be up to code. And that's the first part of our overall fire protection update over the next few years. Our roof project is more than halfway through, is going very well. All of these things will have more detailed updates coming. And in addition to Tameron's property turning 50, some of our policies need updating. We have updated our collections policy. We have updated our violations policy. We are working through the structures required with those updates with our staff and the board. And we're continuing to look at our other policies. The property has changed, the owners have changed, staffing has changed, and Kiowa, our governing laws continue to change. So we're trying to keep up with all of those things. And so we'll be addressing all these things in the meeting today. Is our insurance person on yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm going to keep asking that because when we have a guest come, our new broker is going to speak at the meeting. I don't want to keep them in the waiting room all day. So as soon as she hops on, we're going to go to her and then we'll get back to wherever we left off. So next up on our agenda is our financial report. Joe, do you mind if we in the middle just kind of pause you to let Shadia talk?
If she's, yeah.
Okay, her mom had a stroke yesterday and she was working yesterday from the hospital, but she said she will be at our meeting today. So, you know, if she can't be, we'll give the update. Okay, I'll pass it to you, Joe.
Okay, Gary, can you get the August financial reports up on the screen? Oh, you need to blow that up. You think? All right. And am I correct in assuming that for those who may not be able to see that with their paper copies? Okay, so if anybody can't see that, Elisa has a limited number of paper copies. Raise your hand if you want one. And it's become our practice to keep 2 running months of financial reports on the website. What's out there now is June and July, so this report will replace June, and then we'll have July and August up there. So if you want to look back at it, that's where you'll find it. So this, looking at our balance sheet, that first grouping shows you all the money we have on hand. I just to comment, we're in a much better cash position today than we were the last report of the last board meeting. I believe it was in April. Yeah,
May.
April, May. Yeah, it was in May and we were reporting for April. So just by comparison, we've got just a little over $478,000 in our general fund. At the last board meeting in May, we had 172,000. So we're in much better shape than we were then. Our total cash assets at that time were just right around 950,000, and now we have over $1 million. So some money's been spread around. We have less in our reserves than we had then, but overall we're in better condition. Our current reserves counts 107, 108, 109, total up to $353,000. You want to scroll that down here? Yeah, okay, right, that's good right there. Okay, so we have that in reserves. Actually scroll back up. So you'll notice that account 106 is the roof assessment account. That's for the outlying roofs, the $2.7 million project. So we have 158,000 in there. We're going to be moving pretty much all of that down into the Edward Jones account 109, the reserves for roof. There was some challenges to us earlier in the year. Why aren't you keeping the money where it's supposed to be? Well, the reason for that is that account 106 makes almost no interest. So having a large amount of money there doesn't make any sense. That account 109, we have a federal funds account that's earning about 4.8% annualized interest. So by keeping that money there, we can earn upwards of $800 a month just by having that money there instead of in a regular bank account. So we'll be doing that. I think we're making that transfer this month.
Yeah, September.
Okay, Gary, now you can scroll on. Accounts receivable, that looks like a big number. Most of that, $887,000 of it is roof assessments that are due the third and fourth installments of the roof assessments. The third installment is due September 15th, right? So coming up. So that's why that number looks inflated. Go ahead and scroll down, Gary.
Stacy, what's her name?
Shadia.
Shion.
No,
Rose.
Zena.
SHADIA.
Go ahead. I don't have any comments on that right there, Gary. Go ahead on that. Accounts payable, 91,642. That's a normal amount. Looks fine. Deferred revenue, account 240. That's, people always ask me what that is. It's basically one month's of association dues, which for this report would be for September, because that's what's left of the third quarter. And then go ahead and scroll slowly, Gary. I don't have any more comments on the balance sheet. Somebody may. Let's stop and see something. Can you squeeze that just a little bit more? You can see it all. That's close enough. All right, so this first section is our revenue section of our income statement. You can see assessment revenues there at the top. Then coming down, the first item I want to comment on is maintenance revenue. It looks like it's way under budget, account 404. This is an income budget, remember that. So the reason it's way under budget is there's a billing lag. I think the lease is going to be billing another 36,000 pretty soon here. So that's going to catch right up to where it needs to be, where it should be based on the budget. Next item I comment on is service and collection fees. There has been this year a number of late delinquent payments, HOAs, HOA fees and special assessments. Many of those are caught up now, but there are a lot of late fees and interest charges, and that's what 416 is. Transfer fees 420, down quite a bit. This is representative of a soft real estate market. The days of 2022 and 2023, when you could put a unit on the market and it was gone the next day, are long past. Our year-to-dates real estate transactions, unit turnovers, year-to-date last year there was 38, this year it's 17, so it's less than half. Count 438, the sale of unit 110, we did close on that. We had hoped to get net out of that $175,000. The current market didn't allow us to do that. So we netted out $156,478. So we're short on that. Count 480, I'm sorry, 460 is looks heavily inflated, but we owe most of that money to Glacier Club. About $60,000 of that goes to Glacier. That's the resort fees that renters are charged with $30 a night for the use of the fitness center and so forth. That's it for the golf course. So that money's sitting there and that'll be transferred to Glacier. So that account will level out to where it's supposed to be. The admin fees are the fees we charge owners who have units in rental, whether short-term or long-term. That's a little behind, but there's some delayed billing involved there, so that should catch up. Total revenues, we're ahead of plan, 2.9 million in current total revenues to 2.6 million, but that's the major part of that is the unexpected revenue for the sewer line project, which will be offset later on. Okay, let's go to expenses. The note on our insurance, while that's slightly under budget, that our current 23-24 insurance is fully paid. We made the last payment on it in August. We won't have another insurance payment out until October 15th, when our new policy becomes effective. And frankly, at this moment, we don't know what that is. We'll get a little sense of that when the insurance person gets on and talks to us about that. But right now, we have a considerable cushion. Last year at this time, in order to kick off the 23-24 insurance, it cost us right at $250,000. So you can see what difference that would make in the number. Let's see, 512 legal fees. Way overspending that. to budget. But there's a lot of reasons for it. Stacy alluded to a few of them. We had the Kiowa law changes that required us to change our policies on collections and notice of collections and fees, notice of delinquencies. We had so new rules on collections. We have new foreclosure laws that we have to adhere to. So a lot of legal work went into getting those things lined up. We had to arrange a vote to sell unit 110. The owners had to authorize that. So that was in place. That required some legal fees. We had the special assessments on the sewer and the lodge sewer pipes, the lodge roof. There was some owner concern about some of those, so about how those assessments were allocated. So we had to spend some legal money, some attorney fees to get that squared away. And then there's the contract with the fire safety systems that we worked out early this year with fire department and Durango Electric. So a lot of legal fees that we hadn't anticipated when we budgeted last year. Scroll down some more. Personnel expenses, we're right on it. We're right on with hourly employees. Administrative salaries are down quite a bit from the budget amount, and that was due to Paige Coleman's resignation in December. January, yeah. So right at the first of the year, she resigned. So we had an office staff of 3, and now we have an office staff of 2. So we're trying a little bit of break there financially. Okay, next page. Okay, we're getting into operations. This is about half of these line items here are BHP, are services provided by BHP and what they're costing us. I don't have any comments on the first several. First one I'd comment on the 628 administrative costs. It's over budget. So this relates back to, I was talking to Bobby about this. We were getting prepared for the meeting the other day, and the reason the administrative costs are up is because we don't have H. Coleman, general manager, and so Bobby's assumed some of those administrative responsibilities, and therefore a lot of that extra labor is in him in that. The labor on buildings and property. This account was opened up this year to catch the items that aren't covered in the accounts that BHP has for building maintenance, grounds, plumbing, HVAC, preventive maintenance, administrative, communication systems maintenance, temperature monitoring alarms. All of those items are BHP employees. But there was a lot of other items so this became a catch-all. I have a list in front of me. It's almost 2 pages long. Opening and closing the trash areas, cleaning up, walking the property, identifying work that needs to be done. Taking care of the lawn furniture and grills around the property. Cleaning and maintaining all the shops for access to tools, material, and for work. Doing inventory. Running diagnostics and repairing old automated locks and keeping them up to date, up to speed, so they're working right. Just all kinds of like rodent control, just a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't have allocated in a specific account previously. So maybe when we budget this year, we'll have to get more closely at that.
I know some of those were also the turkeys that flew through windows.
There you go. Yeah.
Can't really budget for that.
Account 36, we involuntarily deferred washing the windows because we couldn't get anybody up here to do it. So it didn't happen. So
Our usual providers couldn't get the employees needed to do our property.
the next couple of categories are the exterior maintenance. Keeping up with staining on the buildings, all the buildings. High Point is being done now. Gamble Oak is finished. Pine Cone is pretty much done, but the bill hasn't been paid yet. That's why that number is low. And the lodge is yet to be done. 649 and 656. That's those categories are our IT guy, Jawan. That's all his work. Some of this account 674. This was an unbudgeted account and we opened it up to crack. Mostly the janitorial work. This is the two guys that are on at night that are basically sitting around most of the time waiting for calls, waiting for maintenance calls. So we decided to find work for them to do. So they're doing a lot of the janitorial. They're doing a lot of the security walks, checking out the property, make sure there's nothing untoward going on. So that's what those numbers are. And that's probably a budget item we need to look at going forward. Fire mitigation 676. We spent more money than budget, but this is money well spent because the more we do on fire mitigation, the better we look to our insurance company or insurance companies that are looking at us or potentially insuring us.
We also, on that, we moved, all of the raking and the leaf removal that we do when do we do that, Bobby, in the
Spring.
In the
usually,
spring, right?
Spring.
that is considered fire mitigation, for the insurance companies and for Underwood. So we moved that down there to more closely track and be able to demonstrate to insurance companies our investment in fire mitigation.
So if you look at total operations accounts, all 600 accounts, we're a little bit under plan on spending, so we're in good shape there. Utilities, everything's pretty much the way it's supposed to be. Total utilities are almost dead on budget, so we're fine there. Scroll down to capital projects. We probably will be deferring some of these just to save some money. The Lodge Sewer Project 827, there's that offset I was talking about from the revenue line up above, so that they cancel each other out. Unplanned capital expenses, the biggest part of that is when we hammered out the contract with Durango Electric on the fire and safety systems program. We had to give them $50,000 down, so to secure the contract and to purchase some upfront long lead electrical panels, long panels, such. So that's what that was. Next page, Gary. Oh, wait, go back to the thing. I'm sorry. Yeah. So if you look at the bottom line there, we're in the black. We're in pretty good shape. I don't want to say we're cash flush with cash, but we're in pretty good shape. We're not behind. We're if I was to predict last year at this time, where we'd be this year at this time, it was gloom and doom. But
Joe, it might be worth mentioning that maybe in addition to the lodge,
yeah. We did.
Minecon was resurfaced at the cost of the provider.
I'll let these guys do the property report, but I have a comment on that. Oh, it's not financial. All right, now you can go to the reserves page. So on the planned income for our reserves, we're well ahead of plan there, $39,000 versus 18,000 planned. Whoops. The unit rental revenue was more than planned because we held on to unit 110 for a lot longer than we had planned. So we continued to get some rental revenue on that. Our interest income, and this relates to what I was talking about before, this is all from our Edward Jones account. And John Mills is sitting in the back. Raise your hand, John. He's our account manager at Edward Jones. And he's doing a real good job of putting our money that we can keep around in places where it does well. It's good there. And then our current balance, it said, I showed you on the first page in the balance sheet, current balance in the reserves is 352,916. The transfers to the operating fund and roof payments, we knew going into this year that due to the insurance situation, we were going to be drawing down our reserves quite a bit. 2 years ago, we had about $800,000 in reserves, and now we're down to 352. So that's what it is. I think in future years, we're going to need to look to rebuild that reserve fund. And that's all I got. Any questions, board members? Questions out there?
I know we're collecting payments, over in September, I guess, I think in March.
September and March?
What is our? Rivers are ahead of schedule. Did that change in your payment dynamic?
No, they're on a,
Yeah. Okay.
and just to comment on that, Mark may touch on it. We agreed to a payment schedule with Ross. He can get ahead, but he's not gonna be paid ahead. He gets paid what we agreed to. Yeah. So that should never be a problem. The good news is though, when we issued the assessments back in September of last year, a number of owners paid in full upfront or paid half instead of a quarter. So we're ahead of the game there. The 800 and change that I showed that was still due on the balance sheet, $880,000 for the third and fourth installments. If you looked at that according to how it was planned, we would be looking at about 1.3 million. So we're way ahead. It's good.
Okay, Shadia can't join. She and her mom are with a neurologist, so we need to do the insurance update.
Uh-oh.
I can start.
What you start and I'll fill in.
Okay, just jump in whenever you want to. In May or June, we changed brokers to USI. And there were several reasons for that. Their service and their responsiveness is tremendous, and they, at least for me and the insurance committee, we've got a committee of 3 additional people besides Joe and me who have 30-40 years in the industry. I just feel like we're getting better service. Additionally, our guest speaker from last fall, who the state of Colorado works with on this issue. When I ran by the, USI company, he said, oh, they're excellent if you can get on board with them. So we just had a good feeling. We switched our brokers. They're working hard, but most companies are not even talking about a policy until 30 days before your renewal. It was recently explained to me that one reason is summer is when all the big weather events occur, your fires, your hurricanes, your hail, and that they don't like to bid further out anymore. It looks like standard carriers, the ones who we have for our owner's insurance policies, State Farm, Allstate, et cetera, will still not do business with us. We're going to be in the excess and surplus market. But our broker feels that, and they've said several times, although they don't have numbers yet, that we can expect a decrease, and they are reasonably confident that we will have improved coverage as well. We are not out of this crisis yet. Jim Rogers, who's one of our owners on the insurance committee. Oh, there's Jim. Jim Rogers said this is, I believe he said usually this kind of thing is a 7-year cycle, and we're in year 4 or 5. So we are working hard to improve our situation, but you will not see us return to where we were 2 years ago. And do you want to talk, Joe, about the different irons we have in the fire?
I do, but a couple of comments. We did change brokers. Broker we had before was Ari Harrison, Costa Mesa, California. Last year at this time, we couldn't even find anybody to talk to us and provide us with an insurance package. Ari Harris was the only company that would do that. So from that standpoint, the market's changed. Things are a little different now. I think there's a little more competition, not much. From a servicing standpoint, it was a good move to go to USI because I think this time around we may have more than one option. Let's see how that goes. Our goal is to increase our coverage, primarily get us out from under parametric wildfire coverage that cost us $600,000 for $10 million of insurance to cover the $55 million worth of outlying complexes for wildfire, way underinsured for a lot of money. That's our number one goal, is to get rid of that and get a policy that covers us for all perils, including wildfire. Second goal, cut our costs. USI has given us indication that they'll be able to cut our costs.
And for those of you who are interested, USI came out to the property to try to be able to negotiate better on our behalf for some of the elements that we have that really speak to our fire protection. And they also will come out and do in-person town halls with owners to answer questions, to explain the situation, especially as it's evolving. So we will be scheduling those, but right now the focus is on the October 15th renewal and getting the best possibilities we can for that.
So right now we have a total of 6 insurance agencies that are to one degree or another working with us. We have USI, which has been mentioned. We have two agencies in Durango, one in Glenwood Springs, one in Denver, and one in Mesa, Arizona. And we've actually already received a quote, though we rejected it, from the company in Mesa, Arizona. But he's still working with us, possibly to get us a quote. This was going to be a midterm quote, one where we could drop what we had and start new with a new company as of the end of July.
Right.
But all things considered, we rejected that. But we may get another quote on our X date or for our X date of October 15th. So we've got a lot more irons in the fire. I get a sense that there's at least a little bit of competition this year, where last year there was none.
Yeah, people aren't hanging up on us this year.
Hey, Justin. Can you comment on how the roofing project has affected our insurability?
Positively. Every insurance company, agency that we've talked to, when we tell them we've replaced all the roofs, we replaced the lodge roof last year and replacing all the outlying roofs this year and next. Nothing but positive about that.
And I just might add, that was even reinforced in an inspection that we had with one of our potential carriers. They were just very, very pleased with the steel roofs and sort of taken back by the roofs.
That, the two biggest things that we've done to help our insurability situation are the roofs and the fire mitigation.
Yeah, they said, when he came to tour the property, he said that we do more fire mitigation than almost anybody he's seen. So we're doing a good job. Yes,
John?
John?
Yeah, John Mills, Unit 202. First of all, I want to say thank you guys for working on it. That's probably a thankless job. It is, but do what you can. And I know the insurance space is very complicated right now, especially with part of properties.
John, could you
Yeah,
stand
speak
up?
up, stand up and speak up,
I'll
please.
stand. Okay. Look right for that.
Sorry.
So anyway, but my question is, have they given any kind of indication about possible rate premium decreases, like any percentage, any ballpark on that? And do you think that?
Well, I will say they have given a very rough number that is not in writing, but it was presented as we might be able to achieve ... So I'm comfortable sharing that but with the caveat that there's no firm evidence that we'll receive it.
Don't go to the bank.
Yeah, and that number is, they are hoping to achieve, and they are working toward trying to get us at least a $300,000 decrease this year. But the full coverage is equally important because it's creating some interference with mortgage loans and buyers. So, you know, it's all gonna be negotiated. We even negotiate on the property value. So it's a constantly moving target. They hope to have some first numbers to us next week to start the discussions and the negotiations. So the insurance committee will be pretty busy once that comes, because I think there will be more back and forth. Whereas last year, we couldn't get anybody to talk to us till our week of renewal, and we were given a number and coverage period, and that was it. And so this year it's looking better, but we're not out of the woods.
It just feels better this year than it did last year. Last year, we were scrambling to get something. Thank you.
Ron Hyman, 504-505, slightly different subject, but still on insurance. Our condo policies, based upon the estimate that I've received for our 2 units, we're in the neighborhood of $500,000 community-wide in our condo insurance, a 500% increase over prior year. Do you care to comment on that?
Can you explain that a little bit differently?
Yeah, we have to have insurance
For
by
your
policy,
insurance.
right?
HO6 policies.
We buy insurance to cover drywall to drywall.
Right.
Our policy estimate from American Family we were with went up 500% beginning in September.
Well,
I would get that away from American Family.
I would,
Because I had to
we
take.
have.
Yeah,
But
they did the same thing to me. It's.
where have others found, we want State Farm.
That's
so
what
did I,
So
and
So
I
did I.
got a way better deal.
I guess State Farm's the way to go.
No, I mean, all the insurance companies, even as low risk of coverage as that is, they're making up for all the crap that's happening on the coast.
Understand,
I mean, you live it.
we're not near the coast.
I get it, but you are in your day job, right?
Yes.
So am I.
Yeah, I just switched over all of my insurance even in Texas. So I think this market, which is it's a nationwide concern right now. And I think that we just all have to do our best to advocate for ourselves and to shop around. Because there's definitely been a shift.
Well, I would just ask or suggest, perhaps since we're talking not a 500% increase, but more like a 200 to 250% increase for those of us that went with State Farm, maybe there is something that the insurance committee can do to investigate options for the owners for our, for renewals in coming years or in this coming year.
Well, that's up to the owner, but I can say to help, and this was Gary's suggestion, thank you, Gary, and Chad's going to help with this, is writing up a document for our website describing the new roofs. Because an owner was renewing their insurance and that became part of the discussion with the agent. And so describing for each complex, what the roofs are made of and some of the things that might help with insurance renewals or getting policies. And we'll put that on the website, but I don't think that the board can make referrals for insurance companies, but I do think we can just encourage people to shop around, and we're all having to do the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Stacy.
Yes, Chad.
Hey, Chad. And real quick, I will, and I'm more than willing to at some point kind of just go over, if you will, just what the condo policy really covers and what it doesn't cover. And we can do that at a later date, just because, yeah, good Lord, if something major happens, but it would be convoluted. So I just want everybody to understand kind of what you're covered for from, the drywalls in and deductibles and all that other stuff, loss of use, all of that. We'll get into that later, but I'm more than willing to, at some board meeting, do a presentation, just kind of explain a condo policy.
Thank you. I think that would be really helpful.
Yep.
Full disclosure, Chad's a State Farm agent.
Yeah, full disclosure, I am, but I'm not licensed in Colorado, but I've got many friends that are, so we can take care of you.
But I think that could be helpful just for people who may
Yeah.
not speak the language.
Exactly. Will do. Thanks, guys.
Any other questions about the insurance situations? Always developing. Okay, thanks, everybody. Next up is Bobby Sherman on the general portion of the property report. Bobby, could you come up here closer to microphones so we can hear you and?
Yeah, we're going to go.
You
want to?
Here, I'll move this over.
Okay, on property, since last meeting, we've been busy with regular maintenance, along with daily tasks that pop up. We've been doing some plumbing repairs in Gamble Oak and High Point. Seems to be the most of them. Smoke alarm project, as we all know, is in process. Mark will touch on specifics in a bit. I did walk the property with Robert from Durango Electric to get an accurate count on all the smoke alarms that we will need for each unit. This project will kick off around the middle of November. There were some units, like we had suspected, that had changes done where we needed more smoke alarms than we had originally thought. So it was good that we walked every unit. We had our annual 3-year fire inspection. We had some ceiling tiles that needed to be replaced, along with a hinge that needed on a guest service.
This meeting is being recorded.
Door. Since it's a fire door, so replace that hinge. We put the sign on all the hall doors in the lodge. You probably noticed those. They have to stay closed because those are fire doors. So no.
Being recorded.
They can get warm in the hall, so people tend to prop them open at times. We need to keep them closed if possible. In the end, we passed with some minor corrections fixed, so that was good. Landscaping continues on property. Selena's been working on the flower beds in all the areas, and I have to say she's done an amazing job for being one person in the summer. I'm happy to say that she has found a place to rent on property, so she will be staying with us through the winter. So she'll be here next summer, which is great news. We would also like to thank Don Coker and his wife for all the work that they've done down in Pinecone. So they've been really working a lot, and it looks awesome down there. The mowing crew's been busy mowing the property. The summer, we had 3 high school kids help us, part-time. They went back to school in August. Since their departure, we've had a couple guys from Glacier help us out part-time, which has been great. For the last 2 years, we've had the pleasure of having Kayla's son, Shaver. Kayla works at the front desk. You all know her. He went back to school in August. He won't be with us next year. He graduates and he's joined the Marines. So we're proud of him, his decision to serve the country, and we miss it. Also, we've had some good opportunities to turn the water off for a couple weeks at times. We've been blessed with all the rain on property this summer. Also in the works, I've Corey from Glacier. He's contacted me. He's in charge of their landscaping and fire mitigation. He's reached out and he would like Tamberon and Glacier to work together on a property-wide tree health and fire mitigation project. So I'll be meeting up with him to discuss options we have there, the relationship that we can nurture with Glacier for a property-wide collaboration that can better the community. I think something good for everybody. We'll get more information on that. Our IT side, Clay and Juwan, they've been busy replacing a communication trunk line that got disconnected between here and High Point a while ago. It took Juwan and Clay a while to figure it out. We got it reconnected and everything the system was back online. We also had a phone upgrade property-wide that Ting is working on. It's basically taking our old copper phone lines, which are old analog lines. They're transferring them to a digital system. It's called Alejandra. What that means, that's what it's technically called. In doing that, we found out that new digital system will not be compatible with our analog lines. They're called POTS lines, old copper analog lines. Plain old telephone. Exactly, the old days. The new system won't communicate with our analog, so that brought us to upgrade to a company called UMA. They transfer that analog signal to digital, so our fire panels can still communicate. They're in the process of upgrading that now. They pulled 250 feet of cable from the AC shop room to the north boiler room to accommodate for the new air dialer that converts the analog system to digital. Like I said before, Glacier, or I mentioned, Glacier used UMA. We found out about them guys through Long Boat, so that was kind of good. They're doing the cutover actually today on the fire panel with NOAA Enterprises. We're also in the process of replacing thermostats and heaters and riser closets on property for preparation for winter. Cleaning down punch downs on the iWorks and phone fire system before winter, plugging in heat trace and stuff like that in the winter. That'll be October, November. All of our security cameras went down property wide about a month ago. It took Juwan and Clay 2 days to get it all back up and running. And it coincided with Microsoft CloudStrike thing that shut all the airports down. I don't know if that was it, but it was kind of weird. That's about it, really. We're preparing for fall cleanup, winter prep, fixing lawn equipment, and et cetera, stuff like that. So that's about it.
John?
John Milskin, I just had a question again. Thank you guys for everything you're doing around the property. Any updates on the fire, smoke detector, fire detector upgrades?
That's coming.
Oh, it
Mark's
is.
gonna report.
Okay.
Yeah.
I defer.
Eric?
Eric Tibbetts, 860. Bobby, I agree with a lot of what you said. I would take exception to your comment about things are better with weeds. We have got thousands of thistles going on in Pinecone. I mean, I find them this tall. They're spreading. They're gonna be more. It takes 4 or 5 years to push out thistle because it buries in the ground. We really need to get after this, folks. We're gonna have a jungle out there.
I think the board is general comment on that.
That was gonna be one of my comments. I know Pinecone is bad. I've seen some of Gamble and High Point. We bought the backpack sprayer, which was supposed to help fill in because for the last 2 seasons, we have not sprayed for weeds. this was. Happy you know the controversy involved in that. I won't get into it, why. But we need to get back to commercial, property-wide, commercial spraying for weeds.
Yeah. I'll comment on that too, Bobby. It is out of control. The weeds, it's not only thistle, but, there's clover that's invading us. It's a yellow leaf. They call lesser trefoil clover, and it'll take over all the grass if we don't get it under control. So it seeds every year. It's an annual, and it's getting bad.
I was speaking with Ryan. And he was telling me that the backpack sprayer that we bought is good for spot spraying.
Yeah.
But there is no way you're gonna be able to cover large lawn areas with it. So we've got to get back with, Scott's Pro Lawn or somebody.
I'd like to address it in the budget session.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're definitely aware of this, Eric, and we'll be budgeting for change in the upcoming
Bring it up.
budget season. Thank you.
Staying on landscaping for a minute, Bobby, I'd like to echo the work that Selena has done. I've been quite involved with landscaping over the past 5 years. Selena has done a lot of the stuff that we've been trying to get done. And I also want to echo the work Don has been doing up at Pinecone. There's also owners at High Point that take it upon themselves to be good neighbors and do things that, we can't keep up with every day unless we want to pay for it. I'm doing a little bit of my own down in Campbell, but we finally gotten to a point where I think we can keep up with these ornamental beds and achieve what we wanted to achieve some years ago. So I just want to say thank you to BHP, and particularly this.
Ron?
I got.
Question. Bobby?
Yeah.
Returning to fire door enforcement. There is a policy, at least I'm aware that there was a policy of also keeping closed for fire reasons, I'm guessing, all service center doors. Is that policy sensible? Is it still in
Are
place?
you talking with Lodge?
Yeah.
Yeah, service center doors stay open, so they're magnetically activated.
Then we
So-
probably need to change the policy because I think the policy calls for them to be kept closed.
Okay. We can look at it.
What
Those-
policy is that?
I'll look it up for you and send it to you. It's
in our
taco
guidelines.
policy.
Is it one of our policies?
Yes,
One of our policies?
yes.
Oh, and Bobby, if I could make one other comment on fire, this is fire mitigation, and you mentioned that you've been working with Glacier, which is good. I've also spoken with Underwood about what we can do and maybe with some of the work with the Forest Service, because south of us, we've got a jungle. And as you work with Glacier, and maybe even bringing Rockwood into the discussion, there are programs where communities can get together for fire mitigation and apply for grants.
That's one thing Cory mentioned.
Yeah, we've been in touch with Glacier and they brought that to our attention, and I told them that we would be very interested in partnering with the surrounding communities and to let us know when there's a meeting.
Pinecone reseal. We did get that for free, and it's a good thing, because if we had paid for it, I would be very upset. Because the roofing crews with their heavy trucks and heavy equipment have basically ruined it.
Yeah,
Heavy equipment does that.
yeah, if I would have hindsight, I probably would have waited.
Wait
but,
till fall. I highly recommend.
Yep.
Is Gamble Oak next in line?
uh,
Highly recommend wait till fall.
Well, you can wait till fall, but that's the reason they did the reseal, because they waited till fall and temperature for too cold.
Because some stuff didn't set
Yeah,
up.
it'll probably work out, though, exactly.
Maybe you wait, maybe you defer Gamble Oak for a year,
But my.
because all that heavy equipment is just gonna tear it up.
Yeah, Gamble is probably done with the roofs by the time summer comes.
I don't know about that.
We can see what the report shows.
Can you? We had the discussion when Big Cat was here and did the work on the lodge. We had the discussion about the outlying areas. Can you quantify how many issues, the level of issues that we've had with laterals in the outlying areas since the last board meeting?
like I said earlier, the big issues we've had are in Gambler and Highfield.
But are the issues out into the laterals, or are they in the buildings?
I haven't seen any issues out in the laterals. We haven't had anything back up that severe.
That bad,
Yeah,
that far out?
everything we've done has been minor cleaning.
So I wanted to take a
Good point.
point by that because I've been working with Paul Brown. Paul is our rep with Albert Creek. And we've gone to Albert Creek, Paul and I, we know where their responsibilities are underground now. We've crawled under the buildings, things, without being too optimistic, things look better than I worried about. Almost all of our laterals, 4 inches, what I'm talking about, not the small stuff, are hung, they're not buried
That's true in Funko too.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Across
They go underground at the end of the building.
And they go underground and the area where it's underground and it's Taco's responsibility, the length of footage is not that much. And at this point, we don't know whether it's plastic or steel, that's yet to come. But it looks better than we worried about when we first looked at it, and I think it's gonna be a lot better in the long run.
I think it's,
Yeah, we got a better number anyway. We had to do that. Yeah,
thanks, Bobby.
thanks.
That's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Okay, after all the property reports, I'll get, hold, 1 second, Dan, I'll get to the rules and regulations. See, I skipped that on the agenda. Yes,
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to speak to Bobby. On Tuesday night, we came home after being gone for the weekend. I had an aspen tree in front of my house. It's over 12 inches in diameter and close to 50 feet tall. That was 12 feet off center. It was going to fall. It was moving as we watched it. Contacted Bobby. He was Johnny on the spot, brought down the track forklift that the roofing company is using, stabilized it, got a company up there who came at night and cut it down because clearly it would have caused either massive property damage to the building and or hurt somebody personally, myself and my wife were able to help him by. So I want to publicly thank him for that.
And if I could add, it was a sight to behold.
there was a big contingency in the parking lot.
Yeah.
It was the Gamble Oaks that people set up the chairs to watch, but it was a sight to behold, and had that fallen. There's one completed steel roof, $15,000 new steel roof in Gamble Oaks, and that's the roof the tree would have fallen. So, things went very well. Thank you, Bobby.
I just
Hey,
want to,
oh.
I'm sorry. I just
Stacy,
need-
hey, real quick, and just on that note, last Sunday, and thanks to the maintenance crew and all over, but we had a tree fall across the road going up to High Point during that storm. And we were coming back and all this, I mean, it had just fallen. But within 20 minutes, it was cut, cleared like nothing ever happened. So the maintenance crew, kudos to them because they were Johnny on the spot.
That
was
was a
Glacier.
Glacier crew.
Oh, it was? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, it was
Yes,
some
but,
crew.
I remember that tree.
Stacy and I were in line there waiting as
Yeah.
well.
But I just want to say, this is a great example of the service and the value from BHP for our property, because if we just had a managed our maintenance with spot vendors here and there, and we at night called a tree company who probably went to their voicemail and they come out the next morning. That kind of service that we get from our maintenance team is unsurpassed. So thanks, guys. Okay, before we could go with our next report, we're going to take a little break. Bio break, stretch our legs, and then we'll come back. Sit down. Mark, here's your microphone.
Okay.
So we're picking up on the property report. with our smoke alarm update from Mark.
Gary, if you could put, if people yell at me, tell me if I'm not speaking up, please.
You're not speaking of.
All right. I know you guys were warm back there. We have the AC on, but if it's too noisy while Mark's talking, he's not loud like I am. Raise your hand and we'll turn it off just for his portion and we'll turn it back on.
So today I'll just give an update of smoke system. We had this, the first few slides are a repeat of what was given at the last board meeting, but for those who haven't seen it, I thought I'd start from there. In February, we entered into an agreement with the Durango Fire Protection District, and we will be upgrading our fire safety system to 2018 fire protection standards of code over the next 5 years. The upgrades include occupant only warning for smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. We will be putting new flow tamper panels property wide with external notification at all of the complexes. We will be adding strobe alarms we'll be adding flow tamper alarms in each dwelling unit in the lodge, meaning every deeded unit will have an alarm system tied to the flow tamper system, the sprinklers. We will be adding additional signage property wide, mainly at the riser houses, just having formal riser signage that would give the fire marshal or the fire department clear indication where these risers are in the event that they ever had to respond to an emergency. Next slide, please, Gary. This is the schedule. Again, it's a 5-year plan. That was huge. The fire marshal could have come in and said, do it now, and we would have a big problem. But he didn't. We negotiated the 5-year plan with him. As Joe had mentioned, we entered into a contract with Durango Electric. They're a licensed contractor for this sort of thing that outlined what they're going to be doing. It required a $50,000 down payment to enter into that contract. This year, we will be upgrading the smoke carbon monoxide detectors property wide. That needs to be done by the end of this year, according to the agreement that we've got with fire marshal. Then we have the other upgrades that'll happen in subsequent years. First at the outlying complexes, replacing the panels and upgrading the sirens and the strobes for the related to the tampers with external monitoring. And then we will finish up the lodge. This will take us all the way through the year 2028. The final 4 items will be built into our annual budget. So it'll be an annually budgeted item that won't be a direct payment. As I'll get to in a second, the smokes will be the responsibility of each individual owner to pay for in their regular bill. Gary?
Everybody hearing okay?
You hearing me okay? I'm yelling. So, this is what I presented last meeting. In a second, I'll show you it's changed. Bobby's indicated why it's changed. This is what we had thought we would be doing based on a way oversimplified assumption that the units are as they were built 50 years ago. No, they're not. They've changed. The thought was if we had a studio, it'd be 1 smoke. The larger units would be 2 smokes. The extraordinary large units like the presidential suites and such that have multiple rooms would have 3 smokes. Again, these smokes are for individual occupant notification only. And the new replacements will have to meet fire code. So where there are multiple smokes, smoke carbon monoxide, if that's the case, they will essentially talk to each other. So if there's a fire in the kitchen and you're up in your bedroom, that smoke will also go off in your bedroom, so you know that there's a fire down in the kitchen. That is what the new law requires. Next, please. So what we've learned since the last board meeting, and learned a lot of this because of the roofing project in June, where we had to go to every unit within Conklin and look for leaks, with the unoccupied units and look for leaks, is, Tamron units have been extensively modified. Again, the original assumed straightforward as built, that's not the case. In August, we had, in August, the license contract, me and Bobby, and this Durango Electric, went and reviewed every unit and did an analysis of what needs to be included in every unit for smokes to meet current fire code. Next, Gary. So, based on what the fire marshal has instructed us and what the, we've observed in individual units, this is what we need to do. So for unmodified units, the schedule will be just as was presented before. Unmodified, studio will get one. Unmodified C unit, for example, at, Pine Cone or Gamble, will get two. Easy peasy.
Absolutely.
Next, if you have oh, no, not yet, next slide, but next item. So if you have separately deeded unmodified units that are joined. For example, in the lodge, if you've got two units that were joined and you live in two units by opening the door, that will require two smokes. If you have a C unit with a S unit and Gambo attached, that will have to be treated with, if they're just unmodified, that would be 3 smokes. And on. Some people have 3 units that are joined. And the rule would apply. Every time you join a unit, depending on the configuration of joined unit, that will require additional smokes, all that will be billed to the owner. Next, please.
Jim Martinez, FaceTime video.
So now we have modified units. Again, there's a lot of different possibilities. For example, in a studio, an A unit like I have, where there may be a bedroom added, 2 smokes. If a loft is added at the same time to that A unit, a bedroom and a loft, the loft requires the 3rd smoke. Some units, for example, an S unit in Gamble had been divided into as many as 3 bedrooms. 3 smokes, plus the other smoke that was required downstairs. And if that C unit also had a bedroom downstairs and 3 bedrooms upstairs, that's 5 smokes. And that's to meet fire code. Next, please. And then we get even more complicated, and we have it all. Sometimes we have deeded units that have been joined, and those joined units have been modified. So we have instances here at Tamron where we have units that will require, we have owners that will be responsible for up to 8 smokes. If you have a C unit and that's been subject with a bedroom downstairs, connected with an S unit that has been subdivided into 3 alongside with an A unit, it adds up. And the rule is that simple formula down in the bottom. Number of combo units plus number of bedrooms if modified equals number of detectors. Next, please. So this is how it'll wind up in terms of cost to owners. Again, depending on the situation. You can go home after this presentation and probably count your bedrooms in your units and you can get a good feel where you stay. Lodge studios, get away inexpensively on this because the lodge does not have gas. So carbon monoxide detection is not required in the lodge. And it's just a matter of one of the Home Depot 10-year, $25 kitties in terms of what's required. They don't have to talk to each other. In the outline, we have gas. So it'll require a carbon monoxide type detector. The labor is estimated to be more the bigger the units. So that's the number for one outline. In an outline 4 in a lodge, with a loft, and this is a little bit different than we presented last time because there is a loft. That would require 2 smoke. And we're outline loft or lodge loft, it require 2, and because of the way we're purchasing these materials, that'll get the same, smoke and carbon monoxide detectors that we place out property wide. They have to talk to each other, and we've determined that we will go with just carbon monoxide and smokes all over. We're not going to try to split out because the difference between the two is 18 cents. And then just moving right down the schedule, those are the numbers. Next, please. One advantage of this new system is they're flexible. So again, we have lots of them. If you have 8 units and 3 condos and they're all over, if you were to subdivide your unit down the road, if you were to sell your unit and subdivide your unit and so as individual units, you'd be able to use those same smokes. They just have to be reprogrammed so that they only listen to the individual units once you subdivide.
I don't think you mean subdivide. Because
If you break them out
into what they were,
as individual units, the way it was.
yeah, because we have a rule against subdividing. I know, I was semantics, but
Gotcha.
Correct
And
terminology,
everybody
John.
understands what I mean. No one's allowed to subdivide.
Can't subdivide them.
So they could be still used, just reprogrammed. On the other hand, if you buy the unit next door and want to connect your units as one, you can reprogram the unit so the 2 individual units now talk to each other and you're in close compliance. So that's an advantage of the system.
Are they Wi-Fi compatible so you can put it up on your phone?
At least I don't think so.
I have those in Arizona, just wondered.
And what they are, I should say one other thing, is they're battery powered. They'll be 5-year batteries. This is another exception that was granted by the fire marshal. Had we had to go to 120 volt systems, we wouldn't be talking about these costs or anything close. Because we would have to wire all of these satellite things safely. When you go into the drywall, it would have been a huge expense. So billing, based on the inspection, everyone will be billed in their next quarterly statement. I've talked with Elisa. She will choose, I suppose, the largest unit. And if you have 3, for example, you'll get one bill in one of your units that covers the smoke system for your entire 3 units. Easily, if it's modified, it'll be according to what you found.
Stepping away from the billing, some of us have a unique problem. Let's say up on the 5th floor here. Our current smoke detectors that are wired to the system are 12 to 14 feet high. Can we have those installed at a height that we can reach from a normal ladder instead of having to call maintenance to come out and push a button because we're frying a steak?
I'd defer to the licensed guy to make that decision.
Right now, we're trying to put the smokes where the existing smokes are, so
I understand.
everybody doesn't have 1,000 of things, because otherwise they wouldn't be taken down, so that's a
So an
question
owner
to
can live
Dan.
And there's considerations, and again, I'd leave it to the licensed guy to decide, for example, in the 8 units, like mine. You have to have your smoke up to a certain elevation, so it'll see the smoke if it happens. But again, I'm not an expert there. We do have an expert. We can come across that bridge when we get to it. I don't see why we can't make things more convenient as long as it meets fire code.
Could you email us that question so we can?
That's my next question. If I'm not on site, when the guy shows up with his ladder, I'm gonna, so,
We'll get the, if we can make it, I've had it, I've had to call maintenance in the morning before, because I couldn't reach my fire smoke. It all makes sense, but again, we need to do, we are handcuffed to it with fire code.
I understand
And
that.
just in case anybody thinks, when, even in our homes away from here, we don't deliberately build to put those so that you can't reach them when they're going off at 2 o'clock in the morning. We do them for code because it has to be, like Mark said, at that height for the fire to actually get the smoke, because smoke rises, so it wants to get that. If you keep it low, there's a midline where it has to be above that so that the smoke reaches that.
There's a lot of nuance here. For example, in some of the units, there will be hallways which dictate an additional, again, the licensed guy is gonna call. There are instances where you could have a, pony wall that's built up 6 feet, but it's not closed to the ceiling. That doesn't count as a bedroom. So we have to go with firewall, we have to go with fire code. And there's nuance, and that's why we have to depend on the licensed guy to make the call.
Eric,
Just a clarification, maybe.
can you stand up, please?
Just a clarification, maybe I missed this. Each installation will be a combo unit of both smoke and CO2?
All of the units that talk to each other will be smoke and CO.
That doesn't quite help me. Is that what you're installing?
Yes.
Okay, so each combo unit is a combo unit.
Yeah, each,
In all the outlines
each
with it.
satellite, each button, if you will be identical. And each button will be a smoke and a CO detector, except for this, the studios in the lodge.
Mark. These are battery powered, right?
Yeah.
What's the life of the battery?
Well, the kitties are 10 years, you know, the satellites will be 5 years.
And are they user replaceable battery?
I'll say probably, but, you know, we're gonna have to talk about.
I mean, they give you an indication if the battery's low.
Oh, yeah, there'll be an indication, but we'll have to talk about how, it's like, it's the same situation.
I
with
guess the
batteries.
question is gonna be who's responsible for changing the batteries?
And we'll have to, it's 5 years, we've got 5 years to work.
I know we got time.
But it's the same thing with the locks. Who will be responsible?
The
for
owners are
that?
responsible for batteries and they should be responsible for
That's
the
an,
fire as
that's a
well.
shorter battery life.
Yes, that's gonna be a very short battery life, so
So
yes.
what we can do is, you know, BHP is building an inventory of these smoke detectors. And as that time approaches, we can look at having that be part of a PM
Right.
and the batteries getting changed out. So
And the beauty of this is we have a baseline, it's 2024 on the smokes, whereas right now they go anywhere from 1974 to now.
we should have a PM on the new door locks as well.
And we can, yeah, we can. They're just gonna be easier because you don't need a ladder. And if owners want to change it, but the new door locks, if you get the battery operated one, they'll tell you when their battery is running down too, so. Yes,
Mary T. 744, just for clarification. I'm in the outline area. I have all electric, but I still need a combo smoke and CO.
So in Gamble,
Yeah,
yeah, Gamble has gas, so it doesn't
so
matter. what
because my
all electric-
neighbors may have gas, I
The
need
the building has gas.
okay.
But like Mark said, it was only 18-cent difference, so.
I just wanted clarification.
okay. Good, ready for roofs? Oh, no,
Will you email me your presentation?
Sure.
okay. Mark again on a roof update.
Okay, this will be shorter. So everyone, roofs are great because everyone can see the roofs and the roofing project is well on. The roofing project is moving fabulously. That's my opinion. Here, just go back to the. That's gonna take too much to explain. I said fabulously, but it has been a construction project. And in, in June, and we've had some bumps along the road. And I want to thank the owners for being so patient with the bumps that we've had along the road. We had a situation in June where the pine cone roofs didn't look like that because they weren't up. And we had unbelievable rain in June, and we had some leaks. And we addressed the leaks. Everyone's, Bobby and the roofing contractor and everything spent a full week setting the construction project aside and dealing with all of the things. And I think it worked out pretty well, but at the end of the day, this is what we've got now on the southwest side of Pine Cone. And I haven't heard anybody say anything other than bravo with the final result. And it'll be like, all of it, this would be what, and High Point is complete. Pine Cone is getting pretty darn close. We're working at the end of it. So with that, could I have the next slide? So this is the numbers and this is where we are. So we have a contract with Howard Brown Roofing, and that contract was based on 200,000 square feet or 2,000 squares of roofing. And a square is 10 feet by 10 feet. So as of September 30th, and this is working closely with Ross McDermott, who is the owner of High Ground Roofing. At the end of this month, we will be 70%. We will have finished 1,400 squares, which represents 70% of the roofs at Tierney in the outline complex. Lodge is done. Hope everyone's happy with it. They're done and they're performing at a great level. So the materials were fixed priced and have been largely purchased. The labor cost, as Joe said, is paid out according to a schedule for the duration of the project. That allowed us to do the payment plan with the owners. It was a little risky, but it looks like it's working out pretty well. The total labor cost, fixed price over the life of the project with High Ground Roofing was $1.437 million, $1.4 million, $1.5 million. Labor billing as of September 30th, end of this month, will be $737,000, which represents 51% of the total budget has been spent at the end of this. Now, High Ground Roofing or is into it a little bit more than that. On their neck, as far as Tamarack, we finished 70% of the project, and dollar-wise, we're up 51% of the dollars. Any way you look at that, that's good. So that's where we are with that.
Can I interject? In case you're not a numbers person, what that means is our roofer has hired extra guys and is getting their job done faster, but he's not billing us for it. He's billing us on the schedule agreed on. And that you don't come across that very often. So we're getting the project done faster, but we're not having unplanned cash outlays for that. And that's a great relationship we've got with him.
And any way you look at it, this is a good thing. Ross will continue roofing until snow flies, like he did at High Point last year. He is projecting that at the end of 2024, he will have 80% of Tamarack finished, which doesn't leave a whole lot. And that's where I went, maybe we won't have an issue with the parking lot next year. He believes he'll have Tamarack completed somewhere in early June next year. 100%.
Depending on our winter, I guess.
Well, depending on our winter and how long it lasts.
Yeah.
But if he can start again like he did this past winter, he'll have Tamarack finished early in summer.
We had a question there.
Yes, ma'am.
So Michelle Demott.
Can you speak up? We have the loud air conditioner behind us.
849, I'm Michelle Demott. This is not a complaint, this is a question, a concern. After our roof has been finished on the deck, we have a tar drop. I wondered how that's going to affect.
You have that, right? Yeah.
I have the same situation.
Huh?
Michelle, call call maintenance, they'll come out and they'll patch it. How many tar drips do you have? Just one?
One, but you know, we're gonna be gone the end of October.
They'll come out and they'll put a patch
Okay, I have mentioned it to them already. so
regarding,
I'll ask them
regarding
again.
what do you do if there's multiple tar drips?
Right.
That's another question,
Right,
because if you get more than two, then the full T and G replacement of the deck has to be considered. But, and I've got that situation personally,
right.
but I know because of where we stand financially, I'm gonna live with that for a while.
Well, and I can too. That's why I said it's a concern. I
Get
know
the
what's
patch, get
gonna
the patch
happen.
on there
It
so
did
you
hit
can,
a cushion, so I don't want it to hit things
Right,
that
yeah.
are gonna be a more sort of a problem.
When you say you've mentioned it to them, what does that mean?
I spoke to Jessica when it first happened.
put in a work order.
Put in a work order. I'm trying to encourage everybody to put things in writing. Cause if I've had some owners who will have a parking lot conversation with Bobby. Well, if he's busy and he gets interrupted on his way back
Yes.
to the office and has 5 different
And
conversations.
I have no complaint with Jessica or anybody.
Yeah.
So, a work order, how do you do that?
I think click on maintenance and send the email
Send it out.
and get the written chain established.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, one other category here is contingency cost. We budgeted 5% of the total cost of the project contingency, which is $130,375. Contingency amount spent so far is about $54,000. That's primarily been because a number of the roofs above the decks at Pine Cone were rotten, and we had to replace the lumber and the decking. There's been some other things like these, I'll just call them multi-purpose vents to be polite. Other people call them other things.
Bathroom vent fans.
Yeah,
Dave Dunn affectionately called them fart fans.
we didn't know it, and they were the cause of the majority of the leaks that we had in June. We had to replace some of those. But given that we finished about 70% of the project, we've only spent 41% of the contingency. So that's great news. Contingency items to come. We will have snow dams that we're gonna be putting in, Randy, help me,
The west side of Pine Cone, where the covered parking is.
Yeah, there's 10 units.
Yeah.
That'll be about $30,000.
That's to put the rails on there.
Yeah, they have to put them staggered, they're
Right.
called snow dams.
Right.
And that Ross projects about $30,000 will come out of contingencies for that. Another, at Gamble, there's 37 of these multi-purpose vents that will be proactive and replace them rather than wait for them to break apart and leak. And then there's miscellaneous lumber, there's some extensions we're putting on the roofs, so they extend beyond the decks. Another $10,000, and then the question mark is, what do we end up with roof rot in the roofs over the decks again? Don't know until we haven't found any yet, but
So we've torn off a number of roofs on the west side of
we
Campbell.
haven't found any yet.
It's the east side that's more the problem. Yeah,
That's the risk.
Does he do the snow dams? I assume he's doing that this year before snow dams.
I assume, I don't have, it ought to be done. But he has. I think he told me, they come in bars, it's like $3 or something.
they clamp onto the standing seams. Yeah,
And I know what they are.
depending on, I guess depending on how it's engineered, it's how high do you go? How many?
Yeah, I
How
think
do
right across at 4 levels and you stagger them.
Yeah.
And that's the roofing report.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark.
Any questions? Additional? Yeah. Okay, Cheryl, has an update on the locks for us.
And this is just gonna be verbal, not online. I just wanted to let everybody know Matt got us the cost last week, so I've got all of the hard costs for what each owner will be billed. Elisa will also be adding that to our next statement. So any owner who did a rekey only, the rekey only for an existing deadbolt will be $31.34. For anybody that had a deadbolt but had a hole that did not need to be bored for that deadbolt, that'll be $160.74. For deadbolt, and we have to board the door because you do not have it, you just have the onity lock, that'll be $190.68. For the Z-Wave that are not radio, the ones that are just the buttons, and you're not gonna be able to control them with your phone, anybody that has the existing pole will be $265.64. There is a caveat there that Elisa will put a note on there. That's what she is going to bill you. Some of the boreholes that we've seen are actually only 1.5 inches, and the bore for those Z-Wave locks needs to be 2 1/8 inch. So if he gets up there and he has to bore a larger hole for the new Z-Wave, he will then back charge us, and Elisa will send that to you, and it'll be the $30 that'll be back charged that we'll have to do to the owners. There's 112 units that we're not sure about that chose that option. For the push button without that have to be bored, that is going to be $295.58. Now going on to the radio option. The radio option, once again, if you have the bore and we don't have to do an additional bore, that will be $295.58. You will have a notice on your statement that if your borehole is too small, we will have to back charge you the $30, and that will come at a later time. Anybody that needs to be bored, this is the most expensive, that's $327.05. So that is the breakdown. We made our costs. I think that if you guys look at what I had projected, we are pretty much lower than what I thought our highest cost would be. So this is awesome. We're gonna get that build. Our lock project is planned on being after our summertime season. So we will be rolling this out. Obviously, we need to get the money in so we can get the down payment to him. He'll order the locks, and then we're gonna start the end of October, beginning of November after season, so that we can start projecting this and getting our project started and get us to an all keyed system and get rid of the onity locks on the existing doors only. Just so everybody knows, at the lodge, any of the lodge doors that actually still have the onity key, that's not going to change yet. We're still using the onity keys until a future date. So for the back door over here on the side, on the north side, some of those different areas, you will still have an onity key. That's going to be a future project once we actually have the front desk closed. That is my.
Do you want to talk about key distribution?
Oh, key distribution, so important. So just so everybody knows, he's not leaving the keys in the unit. So if you are home and he is there, we do not want him leaving keys. We want it to be signed off so that every owner knows that they got their 2 allotted keys. He is going to bring every key down, and they're going to go to Gary. Gary's going to have them in the lockbox. Gary will be able to access those for you during normal business hours, which are Monday through Thursday, and Gary's working. If you are not on property when you are coming back up to access the keys, Gary's on property, you can get him from Gary. You might want to just give him a heads up when you're coming so he knows he's not at lunch or in the bathroom. But if you're coming up on the weekend or after hours, we want to make sure that you guys are not inconvenienced. So make sure you work it with Gary so he can have somebody at the front desk have them. And every owner will have to sign off for the 2 keys that we are making for you guys. And that's how the key system distribution will be. Does anybody have any questions on that?
What if we need more than that?
If you if you want more than that, you would have to do with Matt yourself. We are not taking responsibility for more than 2 keys to every owner. That is something you would have to work with Matt and Durango Lock, and you'd have to pay him directly.
We'll be able to do that in advance.
That's something after.
Joe, just bring the key to me and I'll make copies.
Yeah, you can make copies. Yeah. Blue shirt, sorry, I don't know your name.
Brian Martinez.
Hi, Brian.
Three
Yeah.
two seven. Just a little different. We were gonna get the lock boxes you could put outside your door.
For the property manager.
Well, for property managers, or I'd like to have one just for mine, so just in case the lock messes up, I can go to my lock box and get a key.
So lock boxes, we're working with the property managers. We have one. We still are waiting to see where they're gonna be installed. I will work with Stacy on getting those out. If we're going to let property managers, we don't have a problem with anybody having them. They're
we're
gonna
still
have to be
figuring that out.
tight in your doorway. So that it's not something that's seen. So it looks like there's a place and everybody's doorway is gonna have to be on the same side so that it looks all conformed. And that's where the lock boxes will go.
And then will those be put in when they put the lock in?
No, that would be something that you would have to, any lock boxes installed would be done by property managers, or you'd have to use the lock box that we have decided on, and you'd have to install them yourself or have a professional come and install them. Any other questions in the back?
Mary T, 744, just clarification. distribution of the keys through Gary Monday through Thursday?
Monday through Thursday during his working hours. Anything after that, you need to let Gary know so that he can have the keys at the front desk. We just don't want to have all of the keys at the front desk. Gary's gonna have them, and if you are coming after hours, then he can give them whoever's working the front desk. They can get them for you, as long as it's prearranged.
And also, will we be notified when our locks are changed?
We will send out notifications, and it obviously, because we don't want to shut off all the on-a-day locks at one time, he's gonna do them in stages by the units, within the lodge and the outlying. So it's kind of like how Gary's done the roof project. We will coordinate that, so you get the same type of emails as you've been getting for the roofing project.
Okay, so I'll know beforehand
Whether you're
when I
here
head
or
up from
gone.
Arizona.
Yeah.
If I still have the onity or if I have. to
Yes,
when
you
I
will know,
need to
yes.
see Gary.
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll roll out when we have a projected date of when we're gonna start, so at least everybody will know that it's coming. So, that should be really helpful.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on that?
One of, but if Gary is gonna be there on Thursdays or on Fridays.
No,
and then-
Friday, no, Monday through Thursday, front desk Friday.
Oh, so we can get the keys.
You'd have to email Gary, so he knew on Friday to have him to the front desk if you're coming up on a Friday.
If you live here and then they install your lock on Friday.
The keys are still gonna go to the front desk, but then you would just let us know. Gary and Elisa monitor their emails. We can make sure that they're accessible.
It will communicate throughout.
And Gary's never really gone. I don't like to say that, but Gary's never really gone.
Pull him off the golf course. and have
Except
him-
when he's on the golf.
And
course.
and I'm sure that Gary's gonna be around with the keying situation. So Bobby and Gary will probably be with Matt while he's doing it, so.
But do know that Matt will be under instruction to not hand keys to owners.
Because we don't know if anybody can say they're an owner, and he's not gonna ask you to, for your ID and then sign it. That's why we're making sure Gary is the person who gets all of the keys for your security. And like we said, they're not non-duke keys, they're regular keys that you can get rekeyed at any hardware store, so you can have as many as you'd like. We're just doing 2.
If you have any special requests, like you have a locked closet in your condo, especially if you do rentals, a lot of people who do rentals have locked closets that you want to match your front door key, your new lock, then you make arrangements with Matt to have that done.
Or you can, and you don't have to use Matt for any of your interior doors. He's a great guy. He's really nice. If you guys have another locksmith you want to use for your interior doors because you need to do changes, then that's fine too. But we just have to make sure that they're all on that Schlage lock system for the front doors.
Okay,
Mary, if you want, I'll mail you a key. If you're not sure when you're gonna be coming up, I'll just put one, I don't like to do that, but if you can mail this, we can always do that.
next update, going back up on the agenda to rules and regs, since I jumped over it. July 29th, we adopted a new violations policy that was driven by changes in state law. We're currently working on the structure involved in enforcement of the rules. Some owners feel like our rules need to be updated, and probably they do, but right now we're just trying to figure out how to enforce what we have. Many thanks to Tricia Layfield. Tricia, stand up. No, stand up, because she's working so hard
Thank you,
with us.
Tricia.
She's working so hard to try to figure out how we document all of this. Kiowa is requiring this in-depth tracking of conversations, reminders, notices, etc. But the big changes are this. Rules that are considered a health and safety or violations considered a health and safety violation have 72 hours to cure. If you cure it and then do it again, you're fined immediately. Don't get another 72 hours. Regular violations that are not health and safety, we will originate with a friendly reminder. If you do it again, we will action it through the official violation notice, where you will have 30 days to cure. If you do it again after you've cured it, then you will be fined immediately. And we are working hard on communication, because currently owners don't have access to everybody's contacts. So all of this is going through Gary Prisby. And it just gets a little bit busy, so we're trying to figure all of that out. But if you have a rule violation, please email Tricia and me. If you don't have Tricia's email address, you can email me, you can copy Gary, but we're trying to really move this under rules and regs and not have Gary be the traffic cop in the middle of all of it, especially as we're adopting new policies and new procedures and structure around it. So do we have any questions? Tricia,
Tracy, my email is on the website,
okay,
believe, so,
perfect.
or it's on the glacier.
On the
site,
owner,
too.
on the owner,
I
website.
believe it is.
Yeah, so it's in that owner.
Gary, if we can add Tricia as rules and regs and we're working on building out the committee. We do have members of the committee, but we don't hear back from everybody, so we're not sure that they're active and we need to reconfirm. So this area of Tamaron is going through a lot of change right now, like a lot of areas. And we're just trying to wrap our arms around it. And then once we build out the structure, I think it'll be easier to build out committees because people will have a more defined role and a more clear idea of what's expected of them. Anything else, Tricia?
No, just follow the rules, and if you don't know them, ask. I'm sorry, but this includes board members. It made our job easier. If you
Yeah.
don't know the rules or you don't have a copy, let me know, I'll send them to you.
And if you see somebody violating the rules and you have an opportunity, if you are so inclined to report it, you have an opportunity to snap a picture. It helps because just last week, we had someone who was violating a rule and we called and kind of gave a friendly reminder. And they said, oh, I never do that. And Gary said, well, I've got a picture of you doing it right here. And silence. So evidence helps. Evidence helps. Otherwise, it's all friendly reminders. Okay, now we're moving on to ARC request. I'd like to start with Kate.
Kira, we're gonna start with Carrie. Can you share your screen with me, Gary, so that I can?
Kira.
Yep, Kira.
Is this the one you're looking for?
No, I want you to share your screen, please. It just still says disabled.
So he
That's why I'm
wants
on.
you to
I'm gonna
elect-
present.
He wants to.
She wants to be a presenter.
Oh.
I can't read behind me where you have me sat, so now I can see my screen.
Hang on 1 second.
Okay.
For some reason, this one's closed.
Gary loves it.
Understatement.
That's what I just did. I don't know why that one closed all of a sudden.
And just so the board knows, Kira is on our Zoom call. This is the one.
And she said go out to her computer.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
she can't
yeah,
see
that was
behind
the
her.
one for Amy's create.
I can't open anything. So it's,
Gary,
Wait a
stop
minute.
sharing.
wait a minute, wait a minute.
There's no buttons
Uh-oh.
anywhere for him.
To share,
Yeah, there's
it has the host disabled the attendee screen, so can you go
just. Hang on.
into Zoom?
Well, that's looking more like a meeting, so that's progress.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, we're-
Make host or make co-host that might get, yes, let me see if I can do it then. Okay, thank you, Gary. Okay. So Kira from Unit 828, and I'm sure that a lot of people that live out in the outlying units are having this problem. In those units, there's multiple doors, multiple sliding doors, and the handles are failing. And just so everybody on property knows, Hello Window Company has not released the patent on their locks for their doors. They have not released the patent for their windows. So trying to source the parts has become very difficult. And this is one of the things the owners are coming up with. A lot of people, like I know Byron and Liz have done, is they have they have done it so that their doors are inoperable. So they have inoperable doors because their units, handles have failed. So what Kira would like to do is she'd like to replace that. So I guess I'm talking to you guys. So the email I sent last night is 2 of her 3 handsets are broken. So she's trying to find suitable replacements. She can't find them. So what Kira would like to do is she would like to change her sliders to the pictures that I had sent yesterday, and hopefully the board had a second to review them. What Kira would like to do is.
Yeah, like, I had that issue last night looking at this, and I couldn't rotate it.
So,
Oh, really?
yeah, sorry, unfortunately, the way she sent it, I can't rotate it either. But that is how Kira this is how Kira currently looks. I want to turn my computer over so that I can do this. Let me see if I can just, I know. Nope.
It won't let you rotate
Yeah, it's
it.
not
I try
letting
every which way.
So that is how it currently is with the 3 sliding doors, the little transoms above. What Kira would like to do is she would like to do 3 large doors with larger transoms above.
Do all doors open?
Yeah, so how do those all slide?
So here's the bigger picture. So you can see here, there's a handle there. See there's a handle there. So they all open, but they all open on the side like that. So
They'll
that,
stack.
sorry, that's the original.
That's the original.
Hold on. That is her. So that's,
It's still. the
okay,
original.
that's the original. Sorry.
The second one.
Go back to that.
That's the question.
No,
I'm-
only, so Kira's, thank goodness, yes, Kira, you can text so I can make sense of this. So only this middle door here will open. These will be stationary
So the 2 outside
So
ones
the
are
2 will be
stationary, the
stationary.
middle one will open.
and the other one will open.
And then will it slide either way or?
Kira, will it slide to the left or the right? Can you text me an answer to that? And just so you know, the board, so Kira is working with the window company right now. She has not gotten structural drawings nor architectural drawings on this because she wants to make sure we approve this before she has the expense of that. So this is, so we're doing this conceptually. She would have to build to what we are approving, and this would be a preliminary approval. It will slide over to the left window. So
Thank
she's
you.
just asking for this so that she can move forward, because once she does that, then because she might have to change her header. I'm not sure if she's going to or not, but that is what she would have to do. And just so you guys know, in this email I sent,
So those are, I'm sorry, so those are taller, okay.
so no, this is, so I know that we all try and conform, but we found this picture, Kira sent me, we do have others on property that have done this. This one, they did the larger transoms up front, up top. What these people did is all 3 doors were still optional, operational, but they did the muttons in the middle, so it looks like a French door. So we do have, this is on property at unit 846 and 847. So what she's asking for is more in line with what we have now. Just having the transoms, the larger transoms up top. So the other unit did the larger transoms, but they did all 3 doors as operable, and then they did the muttons in the middle.
These are lower, the transoms aren't as large. They're
Her
smaller.
transoms are
So the
smaller.
doors are bigger.
The transoms are wider. and
Wider,
The doors
but
are
wider,
larger.
but
Yeah,
smaller.
so she gets a better
So the
opening.
doors are higher.
So this is what, Kira, do you have any other comments that you'd like to text? So this is her request, is to start the preliminary so that she can do this. Instead of having to go back to what the original doors were. No matter what, Kira has to change her doors. So either it's going to be, we're gonna change the doors to this, or she's gonna have to go back to the old way, and then she's gonna replace all the doors that way. But we would like the board to vote on the preliminary
Are
of
the
this.
old doors, are they still the same?
The locks aren't. She would have to go to a new system, and that's one of the failings of the property. The doors are all glass. The windows on either side do not have dividers, so
I think
Well,
we are
it's
not, go ahead.
Well, there's frames there. There are.
frames on the outside for the glass. Yeah, that's just the glass.
I think you're not asking us to vote today. I think
Preliminary.
what she's asking us is if preliminarily, does this look reasonable? We
So
don't
that
have
she can move
red
forward.
flags.
Yes.
We're not gonna, at this time, based on what we see, she can work to get us the required documents. That's what we're asking, is that
Yes,
right?
yes. Preliminary approval is what we're requesting.
Preliminarily, I don't have any concerns with what I see. But I would need to, of course, see.
Right, once we
final
have the
drawings.
structural drawings, yes.
And I'll just have one broader overriding comment. And this is something that's been sort of preached to me since I came on property 5 years ago. Is we work very hard to keep the appearance of Tamara on uniform. And if this is gonna jump out as something that looks different, I think we have to have that conversation.
We have other units that are different now. I just showed you one.
Well, and again,
I know. We're moving into a different time, I feel, as the architectural chairperson, and I feel that that's one of the things we're gonna talk about with the architectural review process, is that we need to move forward because we do have different things on the property. And some of them we know about, some of them we don't, and some of them we're learning about rapidly. So I didn't know about that other one.
it's for many of John's academies. And we're not even allowed to put wreaths on the doors to maintain uniform appearance.
No, we haven't. No, that's not true. In our guidelines, it actually says we can put holiday wreaths up. I actually showed that to Stacy. It's in our guidelines.
So I'm looking at that picture. So they did change
They did
the
the
spacing in between the doors
on this
is
one.
now wider
Yeah, this one.
than it was with
And then you see this transoms up top are longer, and then they did those muttons. Those muttons are
the
that,
mullions in the window.
they're mutton, yeah, mutton.
Is that approved?
That was
I'm
before
gonna
my
get-
time.
I'm gonna guess that was not approved.
I never saw. it
I'm gonna
before.
guess that was never even presented, because Joe, you know who owned that.
I do.
Okay,
So one thing we're gonna talk about later is building a historical tracker, so we know when things get approved and when they
And that's
don't.
one of the things I'm gonna work on is a tracker.
Cheryl, I had it back to the
Back to
the
Kira's.
request,
Uh-huh.
show how it's gonna look. Or how she wants it to look.
So hers
Okay,
is all
so-
glass.
So that,
That's how she is now, just so
I
you know.
know, but so the new. She's not cutting into the existing walls or the header. It's gonna, the new windows and doors are gonna fit where they were before.
She is going, Kira, you can answer this. It looks like, Kira, is that the same height? Yes, she's staying within the guidelines of the
So
current
she's not
glass.
getting into the header
She's
or
not
the,
getting into the header. The only reason we have to have a header change is the weight of the glass. If there's a difference from the weight of the glass, then the window guy would let us know if we needed to have a different header. She has an existing header there that should be able to be used, but I always say should be. If there's any problems with it, then they would put a new header in there.
Yeah,
I've heard a couple of rumblings since I raised my hand.
can you stand up, please?
Of course.
We can hear better that.
Hi, I'm Linda.
Hi, Linda.
I've heard a couple of rumblings since I first raised my hand, but I was wondering if this 846, 847 with the millions. Was that approved by the architectural committee
I
when
can't,
that was done?
We're just saying
can't
we don't
comment
know.
at
Yes,
this
we're not- we
moment.
don't know.
Yeah, we
We're not
don't know.
sure.
So now what we're thinking is there's a precedence, but now what do we do with the precedence? Right, that's my question.
Well, that's the question. We always try to determine is there a precedence for it? And I think that for today's ask is, does this owner want to proceed with the expense of paying for architectural and structural drawings for the board to actually be able to vote,
Correct.
right?
With the drawings that she has presented. Kira will not go off of what I've just presented. That second picture with the 3 pieces of glass, the 1 slider in the middle, that is what she will move forward with. That's what design and structural engineering, if needed, will be what's presented once she goes forward. But
But the board is not voting on this project today.
just a preliminary approval for her to move. She just doesn't want us to say no after she spent the expense. I know.
Good luck on that.
She wants to make sure the appearance of what she's presenting is acceptable to us.
I don't think we can say that either. I think we can say she can proceed forward if she wishes at her own risk.
Oh, I can, yes, Eric.
I think there's more issues here than appearance. For example, fire safety, this is double pane. What is?
That would
gonna
all go
look
into
like?
the architectural.
What makes- So, I mean, are we granting approval, all those
No,
questions?
No,
today?
preliminary. It's just
No.
so she can move forward with getting the correct stuff to us. If it doesn't meet fire code, it will not be approved. If it doesn't meet an inspector's inspection by the city, if it needs to be inspected, it will not be approved. It's just the look of it that she's trying to
This is
get,
not an
just the look.
This is not the ARC, the formal vote. This is, she wants to know based on these drawings, if the board at this time would shut this down And I think that, for me, I look at that and I think, well, I don't really think I would shut that down, but we are also acknowledging we don't have enough information for a decision at this point. So she gets to decide now if she wants to move ahead and spend the money to get all the required information for us to make a full decision.
But she's taking the risk.
Yeah, it's her risk.
Do we don't even know where it's made? Made in China? What is,
I
what's
think everything's made in China now.
Well,
No, it's not.
She's tapped SoCo, so it's not that she's using Chinese vendors like the Chinese drywall issues. This is SoCo that's gotten her the numbers, so.
But if there's been changes that have made in the past
Really?
and they have been approved, I don't think that sets a precedent in terms of that it's acceptable now because two wrongs don't make a right.
Stacy, where do you want to stay on this?
Me personally, I look at that and I'm not saying halt the progress, but she has to get us what's required for us to really vote. And there is no guarantee that we are voting yes.
She understands the risk, but she's just pointing out it's a different look, but that is. Either way, she's going to do something, whether she does all new, she's gonna not be using Pella going forward. She would go back to original or she
Today-
would do this.
Today's question is, are we opposed to the new look?
Exactly,
That's a
thank
good,
you.
that's a good.
Thank
question.
you. That's the question. Are we opposed to this look? I am not. I like that look and I agree.
At this time, I'm not opposed to the new look.
I'm not even.
The only comment I would make is if these windows are failing, or these doors, whatever the hell they are failing all over the place, then we are in essence potentially creating precedent for future replacements.
Right.
We need to be thinking about that.
Well, that,
Until we accept
that window in Dorset, it's changed. And I was.
There's another, if you saw did you see my blue writing, Joe, that I sent to everybody? Just so everybody's aware, when you change windows and doors and you're to something different than original, you take ownership of it.
That's
And
where I'm
every
going.
single owner who changes a window or a door, not to the handles are fine, but if you change your windows and doors from what's existing, you now take ownership of the maintenance. So this homeowner will now be responsible for her interior and exterior maintenance of this door. It will no longer fall under Tamaron because she's putting in the expense.
So we're looking at this as if it was a new window on the side of a house being built. And it becomes the-
Owner's expense, yeah.
But it's not OEM.
So the old windows are limited common property. They're the property of Tiamat. Gary gets a work order to replace the fiberglass if it's needed and he budgeted as needed. But once this happens, it's no
Yeah,
longer.
Kira emails Gary and he says, good luck, let me know which
So
contractor
we're
you
taking
use.
this from a limited common element to an owner.
And it takes it out of our cost. The owner has to cost to maintain.
Does that? John, you're looking at.
Go ahead.
Well, if those windows.
It's in our
if One
bylaws.
of those windows fogs up.
It's on them. It's in our
on them, Not
bylaws.
on us.
No, I get that.
It's an
We
easy
have two
example.
issues here. it seems to me. One of them is whether the owner is going to somehow take responsibility for this new configuration. But the other issue that you guys have been discussing is whether this changes the exterior appearance of a building. And as
Well, it does.
Scott pointed out, somebody pointed out,
Scott,
yeah, that the rules that currently exist say that we don't do that.
The rules, I thought, as they said that the board does not highly like, but do not, it's up to the board's discretion.
Well, the board has allowed deviation from
Yeah.
like a window.
Well, and I think we have an extraordinary circumstance here that these doors are failing.
We
So
need to move forward with the future.
we're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Well,
The policy
It's
also,
like the Gables.
Well, I think that they're failed and they're broken and they need to be replaced. The question is, can they be replaced with OEM looking doors? And we want to keep it to that standard, or are we willing to have some changes that are, now look different? And once we make that decision, it doesn't only affect that unit, it's a precedent that's set for 379 other owners to make changes. And that's a broader question we have to ask.
and I think it's in the supplement to the ARC policy. It says if the board were to consider a deviation from what has always been, the board should do so as part of a general change. Now, if that's what you're saying, is that now all subsequent owners are going to have to do this.
Not have to know, be at will.
Well, and the
Well, then-
problem is now does the next owner want to break it, I'm being facetious, but break it up into 16 squares and the next owner wants to break it.
But it would have to go up, it would have to go to the architectural review.
But we're setting a precedent, there's gonna be the change.
We still have to vote on it.
And all I'm saying is that current policy says that a change that changes the appearance should be done in conjunction with a general change so that everything will still look the same. That's what the current policy tells us.
Current exhibits again, just a point of history, Joe will remember this well, Rick remembers it. 4 years ago, we had a resident, we had a fire. He had to replace his back sliding doors. They were replaced by Pella. So I would encourage your applicant to do a little more digging. I'm not so sure Pella's out of business.
No, I said
They're not
the
a
current, they're not, the current lock system they're not manufacturing, and I know this for a fact. They are not manufacturing any of our locks, any of our window cranks. I have a website that will do it, that I use to get them. But Pella, those old door locks, they're not manufacturing, and that's what's failed on hers is the actual door locks.
She doesn't want to replace.
What Eric's
She just
referring
wants
to-
replace the
She's
lock.
going to have to replace it. She said that she would do original and she'd go back to what we have, but it's the door hardware. So it's the actual hardware that Pella is not making anymore. You have SoCo or have Animus Glass come up to try and replace any of your existing hardware on your windows and doors, and they'll tell you it's not being made. It was under Pella's warranty and their warranty's expired.
Well, what Eric's referring to is, we had a fire in Pinecone at a unit, and that entire
That I'm not,
was damaged by the fire.
right, and that's
And
not
they were
with
replaced
new hardware.
fully, no, they were replaced fully by new window.
That came with new hardware. That
Yes.
came with new
Right.
hardware that
So what
Pella
Eric's
is
saying
now.
is, you can keep the current configuration
Right.
and still get new windows. And new hardware and new
Put
everything.
a whole- put a whole new door system in that looks exactly like the one.
That's what Eric's saying.
Which is one of the options she threw out to the board, but she's asking for this change. That's all she's asking for now is if
So
we
it's
take
not that
this.
she doesn't have the option to keep it looking like it was.
No, she wants to make a change
wants
to
to
do this,
change.
but she can't get the existing hardware for her doors, so she'd have to do
She
something
has to
different.
make
She has
a
to do
change.
something.
The change is, does she get the same door footprint that we have now?
Or
Or will the
Stay
board
with it.
consider a new look? And we're not approving anything at this point.
But did we vote for her to move forward?
We're not
and
voting
remove
yet. We're
all?
not voting at all.
Okay.
This is a discussion.
Okay,
We
so
took
the-
a straw poll.
I think it's kind of a free country. She can move forward at her own risk. Isn't that what we're saying?
I think we need more information, but we need to make a decision. So
Yeah.
she's moving forward on her own risk at this
Okay.
juncture.
And if she
Subject
doesn't
to
want to
change.
take the cost with this risk,
then
then
stick with the
we'll
original.
stick with the original footprint of the doors.
Okay, Kira, you're on and know that, and Kira just asked if she did hers, would Tamron take this on as a project right now? No, we do not have the money to take on a project at this time. It'd be great to be able to update all of our doors and windows, but we don't have that anywhere in our budget hidden under Joe's mattress, so we can't do that.
Just a quick question. So as databases have changed, that kind of the question, so the board doesn't have the ability to go back 5, 10, 20 years to look at what was approved and what wasn't?
The board can go through 5, 10, 20 years of boxes.
Files.
Not everything is digitized. And that's what I mean by, when I walk the property, I bought my unit in 2015. When I walk the property and I see something that, I can tell it isn't necessarily like it, what other people have, and I'll think, wonder when that was put in. I have no idea. My own unit, I probably have changes that I don't know when they were put in, but they were there when I bought it.
And I'm trying to build a tracker on that, but it's gonna take me some time.
I can say with reasonable certainty that the picture you saw of 846 and 847 was never brought before the board.
No.
We know who that owner was.
Okay.
So Kira,
In the last 6 years, it was not.
Kira, that answers it for you. If you move forward doing something different, then the board would have to look at it at the next board meeting. So we are ready to move on to the next, unless anybody wants a potty break before the next one. Everybody good?
Next one's gonna be busy.
Is everybody good that doesn't need a break? I just want to make sure.
Okay. So Sure, that's popping up. There we go.
Still sharing your screen.
The
I'm
next,
gonna share my screen with, so that I can. So the next one will be 726.
can I introduce? this,
Yes.
please? So a lot of people are aware that, there were exterior changes made that did not get board approval. Two changes, we'll be hearing about them. One is an opening on a deck wall, one is raising the height of a window. This has been ugly and bad. There is a lot of confusion. There were mistakes made. There are inconsistencies. We have talked to everybody involved at length. We have read our policies. We have talked to lawyers. The board has discretion on handling this situation. There are so many conflicting statements. There is conflict around whether a verbal ARC request was made and approved. There are a lot of conversations that are quoted to me that when I fact check them, the other party says, I've never even met that person or talked to them. It has been absolutely impossible to work our way through the weeds. What we have decided to do is to, and we are allowed to do this, retroactively consider the ARC request separately. And then visit the ARC process and how we write our ship. I will say that you have a very dedicated board. No one on the board is an HOA attorney. We all work in very good faith. If mistakes are made, to correct them, to consult our documents, and that's what we're doing today. There's going to be discussion. I'm going to run our discussions by our meeting guidelines. And I'm going to remind everybody that it doesn't get personal. And it stays constructive. Period. So we're going to start by presenting the owner request for these two changes.
Gary, can you share with me again?
I didn't stop sharing.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can say stop sharing.
So this is for unit 726, which I think that everybody has gone on property and seen the windows. So as we know, they have apologized for not following the proper protocol. They would like to remove and replace the broken operable window that was on the side closest to their next door neighbors. This was an operable window at one time. The window sash, it was broken. They couldn't lift it up. It was existing. It was an operable window. The other was to create a deck opening like 30 plus other units have on their deck. This is the window. Here is the old window that was there. As we can see by the side of this, and we look at this, there's a light switch actually here that we can't visually see, but there's a light switch. This is the same width of the window. What they're requesting is to raise the height of the window. Window was operable. You can see where the sash is. The sash is a little bit higher. The window only opens actually to about here. I actually operated this window with
to where?
Stacy. When I opened it, it actually opens to about there and then it stops.
We can't see where you're pointing.
Oh,
You're pointing with your finger.
can you be my
Wingman?
wingman? Be my wingman and watch my fingers, Scott.
With your mouse, please.
So here, the window also would have opened up. It would have opened to about here. We do have pictures and I have more pictures on my phone. I did go up the stairway because I wanted to make sure that when we looked at the owners next door, that this window, when they're going up the stairs, was not looking directly in their unit. And I wanted to make sure because that would be an invasion of privacy. When I go up these steps, I see through here. As I get higher, it doesn't matter.
Point with
how-
your mouse.
Oh, sorry. As I get higher, it does not get any visual of their deck. What it actually sees is more of the golf course. So that's what that height does. And I, like I said, I do have other pictures that I can show. This is the deck opening. There's the deck. Sorry, with my finger again. There's the deck opening that they have created. There's the dimensions of the deck opening. There are, talking about, somebody had mentioned precedents. There are over 30 units over there in our property that have these similar deck openings. So they have done this deck opening and they're requesting to have that deck opening approved. I'm gonna go back
Can
now.
can I interrupt?
Yes.
The deck opening picture from inside their deck is larger than from outside.
I'm sorry.
The deck opening goes higher on the inside than it, because they were going to raise it, but all work stopped, so it looks higher on the inside
Than it does on the outside, and and just so everybody knows, I'm gonna go to those pictures next.
I didn't think that much.
Right, because it does look very large, so let me see. So, oops. So this is actually, that's the picture that we talked about previously. Let me go back to current pictures. So here it is as it stands right now, and as Stacy pointed out, because of this header right here, this is lower. When you look inside, it looks like it's larger, but this is how it looks at the next door neighbors. You can see how low this window, actually, that opening is. This is me walking up the stairway. So as I got up the stairway, and I know I'm incredibly short, so everybody's probably saying it probably doesn't matter, but actually it gives me this so that I look at this. If you're taller, you're gonna be looking at this. But this is me as I turned, walking up their stairway, looking out to see if I could see the next door neighbor, and I can't. I can only see the golf course. This was a picture Stacy and I took, so we wanted everybody to see from the next door neighbor's deck. Just like with anybody that has a deck on the outlying unit that has a cutout, I know that you have the same situation. If somebody puts their head where Stacy is standing, you can see that person. But that is with all of the other units as well. Not trying to set precedents, but 35 other units, and this is just for the board's review. We have stuff, this is unit 715. 715 is pretty much spot on to what this homeowner at 726 has requested. They have the same exact window, it looks like, and the same deck opening. And as far as oddities go, I know that this was, I don't know even if Rick would remember this one. But this is one that, can I talk about this, or would you rather not? This is the one that was in your
You
email.
can talk about anything. This is actually in Pinecone.
This is another unit, and these owners not only put one, but put two windows in and have their deck opening is quite large. So that's just for the board to review. If anybody would like me to show them the pictures again, I can. But what the owners have asked for 726 is to be able to keep the windows as they are. Go back to his original email.
Cheryl,
Yes.
if you have a minute while we're discussing, to stop sharing and search for the exterior pictures of the window before and after. Without, you can close your screen, so
Yeah.
you have to open a ton of emails. We're not watching, but
No.
we can discuss that without having, because I know
I
that you
can't
might not
provide-
have had those ready.
So those were in one of the pictures that I sent that I had brought up, but I can bring it up again.
Because that helps show the
The height
the
again.
change. Because the window was existing, but
The
the
window
way
was
that they're
existing.
changing it from an outdoor perspective.
I don't know. Do you have that picture, Stacy?
I'll shoot it over to you.
Okay.
Consulted it. Um. The second attachment on this email, Cheryl. It says comparative. Now, if I could just
Get it
type,
to send.
well, if I could type your name, it would be really helpful. Okay, that's coming your way, because I think we need to look at from inside, but also, you know, from the exterior of the neighbor's perspective on what they're seeing with this change.
Okay.
But it's not cold. Are you guys hot, cold?
Hot.
Hot. Oh, jacket, okay. Mark brought a jacket, that's good.
Okay, so I am going to share again, Gary. Okay, this is what Stacy is, and I will zoom this in so everybody can see. This is obviously during the winter months. This is the window as it was. As we can see, it stopped right below this piece of siding. So what is actually been added is just that small piece at the top of it. The big change was obviously this, and if we look at that from the exterior, it does seem smaller than some of the ones we walked. This is how the deck was before. And the Thomases in their request to us had said that they are sitting on their furniture, and as we can see with their furniture, they're doing this so that, like the other owners, they're able to look out and see the golf course. They're obviously not trying to look into their neighbors, and they're not trying to look and invade privacy. They're just trying to do something that it is. But as we've heard from the members, when we talked to those of the other owners, Stacy and I, we understand that they feel that some of their privacy is compromised by this. So that's what we would like the board to look at, is to look at these pictures and see what the decision is to be made. It shows.
And I'd like to, before we have board discussion, I'd like to hear from Byron and Liz three on the next door neighbors. On their feeling of it, and I'm gonna, this is in our meeting guidelines, I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes and give a little extra time. That's good. Who wants to go first?
No. I'm not good at sitting down.
No, you can stand up,
You may want to sit there.
but if
Just
you
make sure you
would
talk
make sure you're
loud.
near a microphone of some sort. Do you want to come up here? I can.
That's
make
fine.
this-
I talk to this fellow here. I'm usually not famous for being quiet, so if anybody
Okay.
can't hear me, let me know.
You're gonna want some stuff put up.
Yeah, those that
Okay.
I gave you this morning.
Give me a minute to find.
One Mississippi. Mississippi.
I'm not running the clock.
I know. It's too easy to target.
I stopped sharing, Gary.
Just give me a second, so.
Robert, what's the unit number of your units?
Pardon?
What's your unit number?
725.
The other 726.
And I'm not sure I can get through all this in 5 minutes to it.
What do you want to put up?
Just kidding.
What do you want to put up first?
The first one.
This one?
This name.
Yes,
Yeah, that's the one.
this one, the supplement to the guidelines.
Yes.
Okay. let me do this.
No rush. I'll get there in just a second. So I guess right off the bat, I approached this from one set of parameters 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then the parameters kind of changed. And so I had to start approaching this from another direction. And that's that I could not look back historically. I just need to entertain the submittal as it stood. And that was a little bit of a consternation for me. So then if you have a pure piece of paper and a blank wall, that's one thing, but it's hard not to look at something and have a predetermined element, like we're talking about the size of the window. I took measurements of the window and they don't match the window diagram he turned in. I don't know how you want to reconcile that. There's some pictures later that shows that it's wider and it shows that it's much taller. Dan and I made measurements. So it's not huge difference, but when you go stand beside the window, it's very noticeable. And it's not necessarily about the owners of Unit 726. It's about whoever rents in the future and who those people may or may not be. So this is a permanent change, not just of what's going to go on in the next week or two, as we try to find a resolution to this. Okay, here's some things I kind of discovered. If you look supplement, can you get all where that all 12 items show on there?
Well,
Maybe not.
you want all of them showing at once?
Please. I think everybody can see that, maybe.
There's only 9 of them.
Well, I got close. So I looked at this supplemental document to the ARC, and it was just a supplement. It's there for a reason. Why is it there? I don't know. It's dated in 2004. That's a good 10 years ago. But if you look at what is in it, it says improvements. There's a lot of language, but just the quick and dirty is if you want an improvement, you need a board approval, And that's not what I'm trying to prove here. You got to go make sure structural integrity is in place. I'm going to skip number 4 because then after that, it starts talking about damage to property, future maintenance, which they talked about somebody else's window earlier. You got to have a completion certificate, owner acknowledgement, all these things. They're somewhat procedural in nature. I need you to do this. I need you to do this. If you don't do it, we're going to go do this, this, and this. But the decks, number 4, is not a procedure. It's an opinion from the board that was enough that they sat down either with an attorney or whatever they did. I don't know. But they wrote an opinion. Go to the next one, please.
The next one.
Next slide.
Well, let's take just a second on it. You
I
want
mean, I'm gonna
this one?
give you a little extra time for the administration with Gary and
I
the
tried
slides,
earlier
yeah.
today, And I'll try to move along.
My wingman was much better, Byron.
Okay.
Administrative thinking around.
Sorry, Gary.
Hang on 1 second.
Which one show it?
Yeah.
The second one on mine.
Well, that's what I have up there. I'm trying to.
Actually, it's 12:37. Yeah. Okay, so if you look into, I looked at Architectural Digest, I took a look at the websites, trying to figure out, and it seems pretty plain. What's a deck? What is a deck? You punch somebody in the nose, he falls on the ground, you deck him. There's a set of cards. It's called a deck of cards. The floor of a boat is called a deck. But according to the architectural people, what we think of as a deck is a structure that includes the foundation, post, rails, particularly rails, anything that works to combine to make that deck work. Rails can be an entire wall. It can be a flower wall with plants in it. It can be a vintage wall. It's a partition to keep you from falling off. So we're dealing with a deck when we come to the window. You go to the next slide, please, which says deck statement, I think its name is. Yeah. We almost had it. We had closed up. So what came out of this opinion is it says the board does not favor additions, alterations, or improvements to a deck. Then there's some extra words in there. It says it negatively impacts everybody's privacy with the adjoining units. And they talk about how it looks for architecture. They even use the word trespass thrown in there because you're starting to impede on common elements and limited common elements. And if you go down a little further in bold print, it says units owners are advised that the board is unlikely to approve a change to a deck. And here's where they mentioned something earlier, unless it's a total complex change. We're trying to get everybody to go to a new style of some sort. So this is very evident that whatever happened in 2004, they weren't interested in deck changes anymore. I can't speak for all the deck changes before that, but since 2004, I've talked to a couple of guys that have been on the board, been on architects meeting, and they tell me they don't remember a change to a deck. And I've got the member present that could verify that, not just pulling something out of the hat. What follows along with this, and I started not to bring this out, so I didn't make the slide, but I'll give everybody a copy if you want to. Everybody on the board's probably seen it, but it's the Colorado statute that deals with. If you want to pass those around. If not, I got some.
Scott and I can share.
Okay. Down, whatever.
And we're gonna wrap it up in about a minute.
I know, you gotta keep going. John, you gotta keep.
So this says you cannot arbitrarily, selectively do anything you want to. It has to be uniform across the board. And if the board has already made a decision in years past to stop this stuff, it's got to stay with that theory. Okay, privacy stuff. I don't guess I'm running out of time to keep going. The art guidelines. Changes cannot interfere with the neighbors. That's one point. Changes do not create a bad precedent. If you start changing now, you're starting a bad precedent. We've had a good precedent in place because actually the art rules have worked pretty well in the past. All right, I gotta wrap this up in a hurry. Can you put a diagram up or she's gonna cut me up real quick?
What diagram?
It's just called a diagram. That's it. All right, just from the top of that.
Hang
It's
on.
not on there yet.
Okay.
Just. Okay, now it
There'll
is.
be some pictures of this, Liz, in it. Basically where that window is and the opening is. I don't care how you call it, it's invasion of privacy. When we bought the unit, it was just a window, it had dark tinted
I'm
glass.
sorry, can you reduce it so it's all on one? Because right now we can't see the whole thing. A little bit more, Gary. Yeah, okay, so that's the opening on top, Byron.
Yeah, that's the opening and
Okay,
then the
the
lower one
window.
is the window.
Okay, so now, Gary, you can lower it back so we can see the,
That is the sight line coming through our unit. If you stand right against or just behind the wall, not sticking your head through, just kind of standing right here. And I get that by standing my unit and taking a sight line all the way straight back. And it goes right through all our living quarters, our dining area, right into the bathroom, almost part of the kitchen, but not quite. And the living area is considered a spare bedroom. We have guests, it gets folded out. I understand privacy, you bought it on a golf course, I get it. But let's don't add more privacy concerns. I've got some, I knew it, let's don't add more. It's the same response as if you have somebody break into your car, steal something out of your car. You're now very concerned, you're gonna lock your car every day. Nobody's gonna get anything out of my car anymore. It's kind of a change of attitude. And you're not comfortable in the life state that you had earlier, that you purchased, we've changed things altogether. And I appreciate that extra time, and I'll try to be quiet. The other thing is that there's a dollar sign, who cares about the dollar sign, don't put it up. If they get these enhancements, or that unit gets these enhancements, that actually adds value to their unit. Desirability, whatever, somebody might pay extra to have that extra view. On our side, it becomes somewhat of a detriment. All of a sudden, I've got nearly 60% window or opening where I used to have probably 10 to 15%.
Okay.
And I'll be quiet. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Byron.
I'm sorry you're in this position. I really am.
thank you. No, because I think Liz has things she wants to.
Yep.
She's gonna.
I'm not good at speaking, so.
You're gonna do fine.
I'm gonna read off of here, but I have lots of pictures to show up here. This is the first one.
When we first bought into Tamron, there was a small window, 18 inches wide and about 3.5 to 4 feet tall. We accepted it because we knew already it was there. It had dark glass, a screen, and was located at the landing of the stairs that led up to the second floor. The top of the window only came to about their waist as they went upstairs. Next picture. When we arrived this summer in June, unbeknownst to us, this 3 feet by 7.5 foot large window had already been installed. As you can see the difference in the old window on the right and the new window on the left. You have to look past the cocktail. So you can see the old window on the right. And the other one goes all the way up. There's even a tape measure on the left-hand side. Okay, next picture. As you can see, the window is so tall, you can stand there, even as a short person,
That's me.
and completely look into our unit, and I will show pictures going into the unit. Next picture. 2 weeks later, this large cutout had been made, and again, we were not formally notified nor informed. Picture. So let's define the word privacy, the state or condition of being free from being observed or disturbed by other people. Next picture. Here are a few pictures which clearly violates our privacy. This one. That's Stacy coming, that's with the window open.
Stacy bent down. Yeah, Stacy bent down.
Completely coming through the window
Excuse me, are those pictures taken from your deck?
from our deck.
Okay.
And I will have some that were taken from inside our house. Okay, next picture. This window and cutout faces our sliding door, because some people have sliding doors on the other side. But this faces our sliding door, and you can look directly into our unit all the way to the bathroom. We usually leave the sliding glass door open and allow airflow to upstairs. Next picture. This is my 13-year-old granddaughter. Oh. Next picture. Let's say, for example, the unit 726 decides in 6 months to sell, and this becomes a rental. As you can see, there is a pull-out couch in the living room, and when my granddaughter is staying over and she's on the couch, either in her jammies or bathing suit, or we have other company, and gets up to go to the bathroom, next picture. And let's say there are men next door looking over at her. I can promise you, I will be calling the police. Next picture. Evenings are even worse. You can completely see inside our whole unit and even upstairs to our bedroom. And I took this picture on my deck with a selfie stick at the window. I have to change my clothes in the bathroom area before even going to bed or coming downstairs to watch TV. Unit 726 has not been affected at all since their unit is pushed out farther than ours. They don't have to close their curtains or have anyone look in on them. This has affected our ability to feel comfortable in our own home. We have limited movement in our condo and do not feel free of walking around or watching TV without constantly feeling eyes on us. This loss of privacy didn't exist before we arrived. Next one. We did not ask for this, nor do we approve, and I'm sure any one of you wouldn't want this next to your unit. This must go back to the original state because this is not privacy. Thank you for your time.
I am, let's start. Who wants to start?
I'm next door. I guess I'm in the most enviable position as a board owner, board member. 725 is my next door neighbor, 726 is one door down. This is something that I've watched all summer, so I thought about it a lot. Both the owners of 725 and 726, again, they're my neighbors, they're my friends, and I respect them all. So with that, I'll try to give a detailed, objective analysis of what I think. And I just ask that you listen to why I am saying it, what I am saying, what I am saying and why I'm saying it. And appreciate my objectivity. So, I'm not an attorney. I'm not an architect, and I'm not a developer. I won't define it. But I am a board member of both public and private nonprofits. And I understand decision-making based on objective fiduciary codes. So that's where I will come to this. To the board.
Please, be conscious of the time. We have some people that have hard cutoffs. Okay, so
So. There's two issues I see. One is the owners of 725 strongly object to privacy. Their privacy concerns have been well articulated, and then it's the design plan itself. So, issue one. 725 owners opposition. And that privacy is a high priority. So I have a duty of care, what I think, and everything here is what I think. And since we're dealing with a bunch of pilot cities, I'll use an airport analogy. If a person buys a home and it's next door to an airport, and all of a sudden the airplanes are flying in and there's a bunch of noise, don't complain. Move next door. Vice versa. If an owner moves to a quiet, peaceful neighborhood, don't build an airport runway in my backyard. Unless there's a lot of mitigation and a lot of expense. Here we have owners that moved into a unit, they purchased their unit a number of years ago, privacy was an issue. I respect them. So whether there are a bunch of other openings in Gamble Oak, or Pine Point, or whatever, that are exactly the same. If there's 30 openings or 40 openings, whatever the number is at Gamble Oak, that means there's 60 that are not. And everybody that moves in has the opportunity to choose whether they want the opening or not. I moved to my unit, there was an opening. That airport was there. I accepted that. I can't complain. But there wasn't an airport there. And now all of a sudden there is. I respect it. Respect the rights. So that's my personal, that's my duty here. That's how I view this situation. But now, in terms of fiduciary responsibilities, the duty of loyalty is a bedrock principle. And now I have to think that not only the owners of 725, 726, of my personal friendships, I can't consider any of that. I've got to consider what is best for the owners of Tamarack, in my other world, the shareholders. So what is that? And that's again, that leaves you with one. In considering all the owners, I've spoken to other board members, long-standing board members. I've only been around 2 years. And the precedent that exists in Tamarack is that when there is an architectural change that affects an adjacent owner, then that adjacent owner is given discretion. And if the adjacent owner objects to the architectural change, then previously the board has rejected that change. Now, again, I've been here 2 years. Rick, you're out there, you've been there how many years? Is that your understanding of the
6 years? That's, yeah, the architect.
So, and again, as been previously said, this board has the opportunity in a public meeting to change that. We can make that change. But I think that we have to consider the interests of all across Tamarack. If this board was to break from the policy that they've had over how many years? 20 years? Would Tamarack be a better community? Would it be good now? if anybody that came in with an architectural change, the adjacent affected owner no longer had that discretion. For me, that's a question I have to soul search, and what I would need to do is hear from the owners broadly. That's not a 723 issue, it's not a 725 issue, it's not a 726 issue, it's a Tamarack issue. What are the owners of Tamarack? We could do that today, but I don't think we have time. So that's how I look at the privacy issue. I look at it personally, but I think it's also a broad issue that has to be looked at in the context of Tamarack. Issue 2, the plan. It's difficult for me to separate the written plan versus what has been built out, because I've seen it now for 3 months. I'm concerned that not only are the components, the 2 windows that are presented to us today have been built out, but there are a number of other additions to common elements in this construction project that have been built out that affect Taco property, limited common elements, and they haven't been presented in the plan. So with that, I just have to say the plan presented to us today is incomplete. That's just a statement of fact. So that's me. Again, loyalty, Tamarack as a whole. There's a number of things in the plan that have been built out that are just different. I'm not saying that they're bad. I don't even want to go to the merits of the elements. Some of them I think look good, but they're different and they haven't been approved. And some of them don't meet what I consider the uniform standard that we talked about in the last part of the discussion. So again, this goes to all Tamarack, this goes to the owners. What do we want in terms of uniform appearance of Tamarack? My understanding is it's been very strictly enforced over the past, however long we've been a independent board. Is it going to change? And if it changes, it affects all owners. And I think all owners need to have a say in what the policy is going to be. And again, I don't know if we have time to hear from all owners today. So that's really where it is. And again, there are changes that are different. We have the uniform appearance policy. I think that we need to consider that for the benefit of all of us. But today, in terms of making a decision, we do have the ability as a board to make changes. We're in a public meeting and we have that ability according to our DCTRs. But where I think, and for me, my hands are tied, is section 6.6 of our DCCRs, which we can't change to. That has to be done by a vote. And that says no landscape modifications, exterior alterations, decorations to any building, window, door, wall, or other structures may be made without prior written recommendations of the architect of the control committee and prior approval. And I think it ties our hands. We cannot approve it. We cannot approve it according to our DCC rules. I know that that's not going to make folks happy. That's what I think. The board may have contrary opinions to what I said just now, but it's what I see as an objective reading how we have to move forward.
Nice. Very good points. Thank you, Mark. I want to just go ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
So I walked both units yesterday and today, and excuse my language, but we're in a shitty position. Period. We just are. It's not someplace we want to be. What I was very clear on today when I had discussions is this shouldn't be a board decision. There should be 2 neighbors getting together and figuring out how to fix this. At the end of the day, that needs to happen first and foremost, because we're being asked to be judge, jury, and executioner, and it's not fair to us. I will tell you that after I walked y'all's unit this morning, I walked all around Gamble. Every gable has an opening. A lot of the other units have openings. My unit is the exact layout of yours. I have the exact same sightline. Never thought twice about it.
Never what?
I've never thought twice about it. I've never felt, I've had a privacy issue. Bathrooms have doors for reasons. I have a bedroom, whatever the hell you call the bed that folds down, Murphy bed. I have one of those there. I have a couch. I've got the same upstairs area. So I'm speaking here, just being honest from my perspective. I've never thought about it. You brought it up and you have concerns. That's very obvious. And I know I told you all this. If I'm concerned about my privacy, I'm gonna close the trips. I'm usually not concerned about it, never really have been. My wife's never brought it up. None of my guests have ever brought it up. All that being said, I don't want to be in a position to have to make this call. I really think that this is two owners that need to come together and come to an agreement. Because it's not fair to put all of us in a position to have to choose. Because I will tell you right now, I don't, the opening doesn't bother me. And the window was there when you bought it. Yeah, they changed it a little bit.
Not a little bit.
It's the same width, it's a little.
No, it's not.
There's a light switch there that allows, that makes it so they can't widen it. They would
I
have
don't
to move
think
the
it is.
electric.
Sarah was fucking
There, so when we go in there and look at the back pictures, which I've studied, just so you guys know, because I wanted to make sure the width was the same. I think some of the framing looks different and that's what's giving that enhanced look. But that, they did not move that electrical. They did not move the electrical and the outlet is right next to that window. It's just the way it's framed. And the other side, they've got the wall, so there's just that same amount of space when I looked really hard at those drawings.
Sure. Are the glass panes the same width?
The glass panes, Bobby said the glass panes are the same width. I think it's the framing that gives
Framing
that
makes
overall effect that it makes it look different.
Can I offer this?
And the model's offering, it again, just want to make my original point is. And I agree with Scott, it's almost, shouldn't be our business. But the policy of Tamron has been that the impacted person, no matter how small the impact is, has been given discretion. And are we gonna break from that policy? That's the fundamental question. And if we are, the board can break from that policy. We've got it in our DCCRs, that in an open meeting, we can change policies, plans. And so
That's a fair point. I mean, anytime we've done this, we've said, did somebody talk to the neighbor?
Now,
And so I don't disagree with that point. I don't disagree that that's the right thing to do. But again, I think here we've got two neighbors that aren't wanting to talk about it, don't want to compromise. And I know you guys have made some offers. I don't know, I don't have the history of what's been compromised, what's been asked for. There seems to be some divergent opinions on what it used to look like. You know, was it tinted, not tinted? You know, is the height a big deal changing from a standpoint of your privacy? I don't think so, because it's something, you know, so you'd have to be pretty damn tall. I mean, it's that height is looking on roofs.
No.
So I mean, if you, and again, I'm not trying to be argumentative. What I'm trying to say is, I think we're being put in a very difficult position. And I would much rather, if I had a vote right now, not a vote, if my opinion, now I'm just throwing this out, you and I haven't talked about this. I think that you guys should be given 30 days to figure this out.
We're in Europe. I've got about 10 days, and we're out of the country.
Well, again,
If we
I
put it
think,
to a vote now,
so
Board's job.
there's a, there is a vote that can
It is
be
our job.
had that puts pressure. This is me, I've spoken. There is a vote that can be had that puts pressure on the owners to reach consensus. And the vote would go something like, the motion would go something like this. That the board denies the plan today. Denied. The one area that wouldn't be expensive to, we go back to original state is the full in the side of the deck. That we agreed that the window would stay as it is. And the other elements that are built out that we haven't even talked about today. And there's about 4 or 5 of them that have been built up, have not been approved. And again, I'm not going to the merits of the design. I'm just saying they just have not been approved. They have not gone through the process. They haven't even been brought to us today. So what do? Go back and look at them again? that come back with a complete plan that includes negotiations with the owners. Maybe do something with the window. I'm not gonna suggest what could be done with the window, but there are creative ways that you could have the window, you could have the light, you could have privacy at the same time. Come back with the other elements that have been changed. Bring it back at, I don't know, the next quarterly meeting. Or we can bring it up for up and down vote. But the plan that is approved, that is presented today is not complete. There have been items that have been built out that haven't been talked about. And I think that we have to address them all, and we can't approve a plan that is incomplete.
Stacy, can I interject? The only thing that's been presented to the board today is the opening and the deck window, and that's what we need to focus on. There's not anything else that's been presented to the board, and I think that we've lost sight by going side rail onto anything else that's been done. If there's violations that we need to look at, then we need to look at violations, but we need to make a decision on this. Replacing that window might not seem like, the deck opening might not seem like a cost, but it is, because not only do they have to fill it in on both sides, but then they have to put the siding back up. And I've been on a board in Arizona for over 20 years, and I'm not siding with either party on this, but the thing that we always come to, and the thing that we have always seen, is if there's precedent set and there's other units that are like this, then we have to take into effect that the precedent has been set. And there's, as Scott's pointed out, and I pointed out, there are 30 other units. The window, when I go up it, does not compromise them, so I don't see a problem. I think it's up to the board on the deck opening on whether that stays or whether we revert that. But once again, we have over 30 properties, and I don't see how with over 30 other properties having that we say that it's not allowed. And I think it needs to be brought to a vote, because I don't think that they're going to be able to reach a compromise before Byron and listen.
There was a compromise offered, yes.
We offered one, yes,
Last night.
And
Did you hear back on that?
No.
not a word.
Not a word. Okay. I have some,
We don't have to give 30 days, obviously. I just leave that out.
no, I know.
If we can.
I agree that, you know, even if it's sitting down with board members, we need to sit down and talk about options. You know, I'm thinking about the window. If the window is wanted for light, could a solid pane of glass be inserted instead and have some sort of frosting or something that prevents seeing? There are different options for discussion. I have spent more time talking about this in the last month than I have spent working my full-time job. So I've had a lot of discussions, and every day new points are made to me, and the point that was made to me last night was an interesting one. And it was, when someone makes changes to common elements without permission, it is no different than walking across the street and carving a hole in your neighbor's house, because you do not own that wall. The association does. And that gave me pause. We are put in a very hard position. As I said, we checked legally. We are allowed to do an ARC review after the fact, as long as our decision stands. And in the end, the property goes with the decision. So if we approve or deny any part of this, then the property has to match our final decision. And we are allowed to do that, we've been told. But it's still putting us in a really bad position. As far as, there is a lot of chatter, so much chatter about other changes that were made. I would like to say that the reason the deck is not painted is all work stopped. All work stopped when this came up. So it's not finished yet. It is not that they are allowed to have unpainted siding on their deck. The lights used in Gamble Oak cannot be obtained anymore. Something we're going to talk about with our ARC process changes that we're thinking we need. You can't find those lights anymore. So they tried to find rectangular sconce lights that fit. Now, that could have been part of an ARC request, but we have a bigger issue there because a lot of people's lights on property don't work. They can't source the ones that were there. So I think that's a bigger conversation. So some of the things that have come my way, and yes, I've heard these for the last few weeks. And the spigot on the front patio, that was not approved, nor was it requested, nor is it being requested today. In my opinion, if that just happened and it's not even part of a request, it goes back. I don't think a spigot should have been put in on a front patio. And it's not part of an ARC request right now. So the two things we're considering are these windows, but for the window and the opening, there is precedence for both. And I understand that. But I have to say, I really resent that we were put in this position.
Stacy.
And I don't feel the owners have really made good faith effort to come together. Yes, who are we pointing at?
That Jim has a, go ahead, Jim.
Thomas,
Un-
726.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, everybody, I'm Jim Thomas. I'm the owner of 726, kind of the middle of all this stuff. I'll try to just keep it quick. You know, Teresa and I, as we were going through this process with BHP as our contractors, we thought we had approval. Okay, what we did wrong is we as owners did not submit approval, and we've acknowledged that in our letters to you guys. Through our builder, we thought that it had gone through the ARC process, both for the increase in height of window and the opening in the deck. Byron and Liz, we had talked all through everything as far as being friends, and all of a sudden the day that the cutout was put into the deck is when we found out that they had an issue with it, and we went right to them and we tried to have a conversation and said, hey, can we get back together and tomorrow and come up with a resolution? And frankly, we never heard back from them. So they shut us out, and we've just been curious what the issue was. And then last night, ironically, 12 hours before this meeting, I got by the timestamp, I got that email from you, Byron, that said, you know, we're offering this. I've been up since 1 o'clock in the morning doing this event for the FAA. So I didn't even see it until late this morning, right before the meeting. So I apologize for not getting back to you on that. But what's interesting, we can go off on all these different things, and look, there's no nefarious action here. We weren't trying to cheat. We're not trying to do things we're not supposed to do. We thought we had approval for these two things. And so when Bobby came back to us saying we did have approval, that's another process that you guys are going to talk about. So please don't paint us into this picture that we're just trying to get away with stuff. All we were trying to do is keep that window the same exact width. It needed to be new. We wanted it higher to get more light, a better view. The deck opening is the same as everybody else's. You know, it's made out to sound like it's a huge deal, but the reality is we don't have any consternation. We're not upset. We're not mad. We just don't really know how we got into this position of being shunned and talked about, and board members saying, you know, we did all these wrong things. We'd love to work something out with the Threets. They just never came to us. They ignored us. So at the end of the day, I would like to stay focused on the vote for the ARC request. You know, like you said, Stacy, you went to the lawyers. They said, yeah, you can go back and retroactively get a formal vote for approval on this. And that's all this is. I don't want to muddy the waters. The ARC request is there. Let's pretend like it was the original one, the two things, and just move forward from there. So thank you.
Jim, thank you. Can I ask you what I've heard that there was something offered last night, but I haven't heard what it is and whether it's being considered.
Well, I read it quickly because I just got it here while I was here. I think they want us, if I'm not mistaken, they want us to get rid of the window, but they said we could keep the top part for the light that we're requesting or something like that. So I don't want to put words into the email, but basically they want the window that's always been there to go away, and then the piece that we added for light, we could keep that. And you know, we didn't even know it was a window issue because that window's always been there. And when we went over there to have the conversation, they said, look, that window's always been there. We're not worried about that. It's this new deck opening. So that's why I say we're confused. We don't really know where it went off the rails and what the real complaint is, because that window's been there forever.
I'm sorry, Byron has the email. I'm just curious if there is a compromise being discussed. We need to explore that. What is it, Byron? What was your email?
I offered up and even in yesterday afternoon, we were trying to put all these pieces together. And by the time, and I'm not the fastest guy to try to put an attachment on an email and things I didn't want to do anyway. It wasn't early that it went out. It was somewhere around 7 or 8 o'clock. As I recall, it's probably got a date stamp on it. It just says yesterday. We looked at it as if you take the original window that was in, I'll say the lower half or the lower 2/3, whatever that is. It was about a 5-foot window. It was dark tinted. You couldn't see through it. You can't see out of it.
Pause for 1 second. Was it dark tinted?
No, that could have been a previous version or something. The window that was there had a blind over it. There was the blinds. But when those blinds were up, the window was supposed to be operable, but it wasn't, and you could see through it clearly. There was no tinting or somebody had even said that a previous window that was in that same location was stained glass at one time. I don't know anything about any of that. We just knew this window was awkward in size. It didn't work. So we put the same one in, just taller.
Jim, did it have the screen on it, which would have given it the appearance that it seemed darker because it had a bug screen on it? Because I think that that's part of the problem too, is when you've got those bug screens on, it kind of gives those windows a darker appearance. And I'm not sure you have one on now.
I can tell you, when the previous owner lived there, they would come out occasionally. If I was going to light the grill, I'd give them a heads up, smoke's coming, and they would try to come over and either lower the window or put it back where they needed to do. And you could not see an individual standing there. You could see the fingers come out from under the window. So I can't tell you if it's dark tinted, if he had tape on it, but it was something. I couldn't see him except his fingers moving up and down the window. That's all I can tell you. I suggested, since the original conversation was they wanted more light in the stairwell area or more light in the room. That was been one of the goals of the remodel. I said, well, if it's a very low window, it's only lighting the staircase. Why don't you take a certain amount of window, make it architecturally reasonable to the rest of the community, which would put it right above the trim line. It's about, I'm going to guess 3 feet, 3.5 feet up there. You make it a square, you can make it a slant with the roof. There's all kinds of them. That window would produce light into the room, into the staircase as it goes up, not just on the landing. So I said, okay, if you get that much light and you can make it a hard pane, whatever you want to do. And I thought, okay, if that gets you more light, we'll trade you that for the opening that I personally think we want to prove. But if you look at the guidelines from 2004, it says decks will not be approved, changes to it. So I thought, okay, it's a fair swap. We'll get that. You get the light, put it back. Let's go.
So you're saying that the old window
They want them to delete
went
that.
up to that strip of brown going
Correct.
across.
Yes.
And you want that whole area filled in, the old window that's there, and you just want them to put something little way up high.
Or you put the same size back up there. All I was just saying is, okay, if you roll the dice, and that's part of the proposition is, if this thing is totally turned down, their proposal is shot. They're going to have to put it back where it was restored. And that's what you told us. It would have to go back to its original state. The deck would be filled in, and the original window would be put back in.
Well, a new window fitting the original.
Filling the
window.
same space, same size, same criteria, same specs, okay? Operable window. I'm just saying, well, if roll the dice, it's a possibility you're gonna lose. Rather than putting a window back in that's not functional the way you want it to be, putting light in the wrong place. Let's put the light up at the top where it can be useful. And I'm not trying to compare sizes that big. Go to the bottom of the trim. I'm just trying to be architecturally correct. Because that's another verse in the documents that say, let's maintain continuity. Some kind of window on top versus some kind of window on the bottom. That's where I was trying to go.
Thank you.
That seems so ironic, right? Because you're saying get rid of something that was already there and you want to do something that is what you're fighting against to begin with, the upper portion. So I think I know what you're saying. It just,
It's just,
it doesn't make it. Yeah.
just saying, if you're gonna have to put the window,
Are you guys hoping to leave the window the way it is? Because there was a window there before.
There was
Right.
one,
Are you open to leave the window the way it is as installed right
no,
because of the additional height?
it is wider and it is much
It's not
taller.
wider. We've already covered it.
That's not true.
it's 2.5 feet taller.
Oh,
Taller.
You've agreed on that.
And it's about 4 inches
But taller,
wider.
it's above
And
the
it's
fence line.
about 4 inches
Oh,
wider.
That's true, but I,
Above the roof.
I could. And I know this is being,
Guys, I'm just trying to get to a compromise here.
I know.
We can't.
And I need to hear from Joe and
I know.
Greg too.
They're both.
I know this seems very comical and very stupid. But listen. Is it a little uncomfortable for me to be standing here looking down at you? You're 2 feet from me. We had a picture that says I'm about 2 feet from that window. This is what somebody standing in that window feels like. You're 2 to 3 steps up, and this may not even be tall enough. But if you see somebody in that window, it's kind of like a big guy looking down on you kind of a feel, just like this.
But you see them, they can't see you. You.
So yes, they can. Y'all stood in the window
I,
and looked
I
at us.
did stand in the window and I couldn't see you as I was going up the stairs. In that larger portion, I could only see outside. The
And
lower
try, and
portion,
try
I
to
could
at
see you.
nighttime too.
It just depends which way you turn your head.
And like I said, if this unit ever gets sold and this becomes, and it's not just about what they want or what they have. We have to look down the road. If they decide to sell and move at some point in time, and the new owners make this a rental, we still have all this issue for us, this privacy issue for us.
I'd like to hear from Greg and Joe.
I mean, I like the fact that at least there's conversation. Because, having spoken to both parties, one of the first things I asked was, can y'all kind of find some happy ground somewhere to just start? And I'm hoping that today was at least the start. Understand y'all are gonna be traveling, fully understand the privacy aspect of this, and I understand the cutting in the deck. When we had spoken, I got the concern with the window. I gotta tell you, if that window was there beforehand, it is what it is. If you two can figure out how to work some, that's why when we spoke and you did go ahead and send that over there about maybe doing something higher. I hope to see that as a start. Jim, maybe a start on that window.
We're not gonna solve it today.
No, I know we're not. But if we can, and you leave, what, in 10 days, 12 days?
Actually, we're leaving Sunday.
For how long?
We'll have a week at home with a couple of doctor's appointments and that kind of thing, and then we depart on the following Saturday or Sunday.
Don't get back till after our 2nd or 3rd of October.
But one of the things I talked to Stacy about, we've all spoken, and forget the government side of it, but that's kind of what we're being forced to do. When there's a variance to some, and that's assuming that everything went the way it was supposed to, understanding that didn't quite happen. Generally, if you ask for a variance, sometimes it's approved right away. Sometimes there's 3 readings. So a lot of times you pass something, you come back to the next meeting, and it just gets kind of passed. No one really paid attention to it. In that time frame, there's discussion. That second reading, someone goes, you know what, I've got a question. First thing that happens then is whether it's architects, developers, attorneys,
permit, whatever that is, really starts to get kind of into a crunch time. You know, so if there is some type of compromise that can be handled, because by that third reading, there's either gonna be the thumbs up or the thumbs down. And when I spoke to you and I visited, that was my first thing. We got put in a situation, you know, we'll figure it out, because yes, it is our job. But for me to have two neighbors really say, okay, what can I live with, what can I, and I get the privacy. I really do, after being in y'all's place. And I'm just, as I told you, perspective. If I was cutting a hole in that deck, I'd ask for the whole damn thing. I mean, that's what's next to mine. Okay, I'm not as concerned about the privacy, but for you, I am because of our conversations. I get it, I can do. So for me, that window that was there before, that one, I hope y'all can work something out. That existed before. That opening in the deck, I've got a problem with that for a whole bunch of reasons. And it's not just your friends. So that's where I'm at right now. But I will leave you with, if there's any way that y'all can somehow figure out what works for both of you, all of this plan comes back to us, we will make a decision. I'm just being open.
Joe?
Oh, couple of things. Personal perspective. I'm in the same position as Thomas's. My unit shoves out towards the golf course. And I have two units on either side that are. One is slightly below, one is a little more farther below. I have full floor to ceiling openings on both sides of my deck. And I've had that, they were there when I bought the place. And I've had now the third owner in the unit on my left side and the second owner in the unit on my right side. And I have never had an issue with anybody saying, oh, you're looking at me or anything like that. I don't see the deck opening as a big problem, and it's all over the property. There's, you can walk around and they're all there. The window creates a problem because that's where somebody, a peeping Tom, could get behind that window. And depending on how the light's reflecting, they could look into the street's unit, maybe without being detected. My solution to that is, like Stacy said, put some kind of veined glass or pebble glass where the light comes through, but you can't see images. So that's,
Unless they open the window.
well, but the
But
window.
it was there before.
but
Right,
the-
the window's always
well,
been there at the bottom.
the window opening was there before.
At the bottom, below
And
the trim.
you could go a little bit farther with that if they want some airflow. That window, if you open it, you're standing on the landing, which is the only place you're gonna be able to look through. You have to be
Stick your
on
head
the
out.
landing. And you have to be purposeful about looking into the street's unit. But that opening is at your knees. So you'd have to get down on your hands and knees to.
Joe, I didn't have to, but yes. Mid
So
Shennis, but
maybe,
yes.
so maybe some permanent block in that window opening, in the window, to make it only open this far,
Or,
not all the way halfway up.
or
It doesn't open all the way up. Did you try and operate it? It
Well,
only
I was in
had
the
a
unit and
stop.
Jim showed me how it
Okay,
opened.
yeah. it's
And I
not
don't
a
remember,
stop.
I don't know if he pulled it all the way as far as it would go.
As far as it goes is only partial. It has a stop, so it doesn't go up higher. and
How
that's
far,
the-
so
It-
how
It's
big
below
is
the
it?
sash. It's that much below the sash, because I looked when I opened it.
Yeah,
and
but the
it's-
sash is quite high.
The sash is where it was almost originally, so it doesn't go up above where it was opening.
All I'm saying is if that window, if the glass was, if the upper glass or all the glass was made to be translucent, not opaque and not clear, and the window and the window could only be opened, say 12 to 18 inches, that would seem to me to be a compromise that they could talk about.
what if a compromise is this? Keep the current footprint, but replace it with a pane of glass and frost it, pebble it, something like that.
Well-
Or go back to the original window size with the window that opens, but not the larger window that opens more than the original.
I mean, if it was me, I'd want the airflow I want that airflow.
Jim.
Jim.
Just say,
Hey, Jim.
Hey, so it's a little ironic because when we went to Byron and Liz, the day we found out that they were struggling with this, you know, they didn't say anything about the window, but that's what we were trying to compromise on. Is this the window that you're struggling with? And they weren't clear. So now that we're talking about the window, it makes it a little odd. And especially since there was one there previously, we've ordered a blind, an automatic blind that's gonna cover that. So that's one piece. We're not gonna keep that wide open. And frankly, I'm more than game to compromise Byron and Liz on that window. Because Teresa and I thought we were doing everything we were supposed to. It wasn't until later that we knew that we'd screwed up the approval process. And I need you to hear that we own that. And we've learned so much about that. When our builder said, yeah, we went to the board and I got approval, that's all we needed to hear. So now perhaps if there's so much consternation about that window in your minds, what if we just, between you and BHP, you guys figured out the cost and did whatever it took to get it like you want it? Because we don't want any of this stuff. This is not Teresa and I. This is not how we operate. And we always thought it was the deck opening. It sounds like you're fine with the deck opening. All of a sudden it's this window. And we didn't even know that was a big deal because there was already a window there, and we've already bought the blind to be able to control the visibility for our privacy. So if you're serious about this, then since Bobby and the process kind of screwed up on that end, and you guys have got the problem with it, what if between you two, with us being in the middle and not caring, you guys figured out what you wanted to do, pay for it, make it happen?
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
Are you
Um,
freaking kidding me?
Hold on, I haven't heard from Andy yet.
well, I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm kind of a little bit in the weeds with it because I did hear about this prior to all this going on. And I want everybody to know one thing. I never approved anything. Nothing. I was presented with the idea, told them I think it could work, but it has to go. I want everybody to know that. Second, if there was a window there, and it was okay with you guys that you bought your unit there, I would say put the same window back there, just like it was, operable or whatever you want to do. And then talk about the opening in the deck. That's, to me, the problem, is the deck opening. Now, as you said, there's deck openings all over the place. It's gonna be kind of hard not to, but they never got approval for that. I didn't know anything about that. All I knew about was the window. You may have heard about the deck opening or something. I didn't know.
After the fact,
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that.
No, none of us heard about it.
Yeah, so
And I just, so for reference, when a gable's done, there does seem to be that the deck opening was either there or it was presented. So I
Yeah.
think that everybody was assuming that was the deck opening in the race.
Yeah, it wasn't
But it's
presented.
not, it was not presented that way. So it was presented just as the gable.
but one thing I did hear about from one of our past presidents is anytime you do anything like that that affects the other owner, you need to get permission to do that. And I don't think that happened.
That's
It's
not,
it's not a need
that's
to
not,
get it,
that's
It's not a
not,
policy
it's not a
statement.
policy.
but it has been done in most cases.
Well, the owners, in my estimation, my experience, the owners have always been consulted
Yes.
and their opinion has been sought. But the policy is clear that it's a board decision.
Right.
You don't need
You
permission.
don't need
It's not a permission thing. It's
But-
input.
Okay.
I think you could, personally, I think the two of y'all could come together and solve this. I don't really think that it should come to the board.
I'd like to ask John. When an ARC matter comes before the board like this has, am I correct that the board has 15 days?
The policy says. I mean. The board can do three things. the board can accept it, approve it. Board can approve it with conditions. The board can deny it. But whatever decision the board makes, it does say the requester should be informed within 15 days. Now, if the board takes the middle option, then obviously you kick the can down the road a little bit because you've done it with conditions. Those conditions may or may not be immediately accepted or not, so it may extend, so it becomes sort of a new proposal. If the conditions can be met by the new owner or by the presenter or requester, and those conditions might be something that a neighbor has suggested. That's how that would work as far as that 15 days goes. So yes, if it's approved, yes, if it's denied. Maybe if it's approved with conditions.
Or John, could it be denied with a message to the owners to come back with another plan? If there's so many loose ends here, I don't see what we could possibly do.
Well, it would seem to me that if the board would, this is just me, I mean, this is my reading. If the board denies it, then the obvious next step is the restoration of the original.
Well, and then also pressure on the other, and we could put pressure on the home. Right now, this could just, if we punt, if we kick the can down the road, this could go on forever.
But just one comment. You guys are back to third.
What's that?
You're back to third of October.
Yes.
It's 30 days out.
But you're saying, what I've been hearing here is, oh, the two owners need to get together and talk about this. And what I just now heard here was that we are supposed to get with his contractor and pay for a mistake, quote unquote mistake, that never, ever got approved to begin with. And they know how to get things approved because they got the gable approved the proper way and did not get this to the board. And I can ask anybody here permission for something to do at my house, or any of these people back here can ask for permission from anybody on the board. And if the board says, sure, go ahead and, well, sounds good, go ahead and do that. That does not count. It still has to come to the board for a vote, and that did not happen in this case. And now his compromise is to ask us to go to his contractor to fix this. I'm sorry, you can see where these negotiations are gonna go.
I also would like to take a moment. There's twice the discussion has come up that they came over to talk to us about the window. And then there was no further discussion. I need to clarify that a little bit. It was under the assumption that he had approval. He told me it is approved. What do I need to do to make you happy? Can I write you a contract that says when we sell the house, we will fill it in? Which he doesn't have the authority to do. The other one was, let's go change the size and see if it'll change the look. And he and I did go over and analyze that. And that's when I'm going to say both gals got more than they could handle. So it was just Jim and I. And we didn't get anywhere. And I thought it was under an approval that we needed to do something. So then I turn around and ask, can I see the documents for what this cutout is going to be? That's when I found out they didn't exist. There was never approval. And you're right. There wasn't much discussion after that because I thought I had been, I don't know, had something slide by on me. Now he was under the impression.
Bobby, you need to talk to Bobby Byron because he told us it was approved.
But it doesn't matter.
All I wanted to say is the fact that we never got back together is not because I refused to talk to him, because I made it a point to try to talk to him for 2 or 3 weeks and got very little response, just casual social talk on the pickleball court, on the golf course. I talked to him. I got very little response.
What I just heard from Jim is he's willing to try to come up with a compromise. right?
If we pay
Just
for it.
The way we would have to.
If we pay for it.
He said that, that doesn't necessarily mean that's.
Well,
gonna be the
that's
case.
your
We're not endorsing.
Well,
But what I'm,
not gonna happen.
the way we have to approach this, honestly, as the board, if you guys can't agree to come together and try to compromise, is we would have to say, return the window the way it is, make the whole building. You still have a window. You got no choice, because that's
But
the way it
that's
was
where-
when you bought it.
Then that's where it
Make
needs to
it
go.
happen.
Then that's where it needs
If
to
you guys
go.
aren't willing to compromise, I mean, we're trying to offer something up.
Well, so are we.
So did I.
So
I'm sorry.
Let me try, as fuzzy as I am, let me try to bring some clarity. So issue one, and Eric has given me some long history on this, is that the affected owner has the ability to say yes or no if their privacy or another objection is valid. A privacy issue is brought to us today. We've got so much confusion with regard to what the plan is right now. My head is about ready to explode. They're just, I've heard so many things. I will offer a motion that the plan that is brought to us today be denied. That the, and John, tell me if I can go here with this denial. That what I consider the most objectionable problem and the easiest to fix, the hole in the decking, the peephole is closed. Because I don't think it's our business to say whether it is little, there's 30 here, there's 7, the whole west side of Pinecone is closed. There's a lot of units that are closed, they've moved into a closed unit. It's closed, it would be relatively inexpensive to close it and go back. The window, when it's built out, it may be objectionable, but it's built out and it's constructed nicely.
That sounds like you're explaining your motion. We would need a motion.
I'm explaining, then I'll give it the motion. It's constructed nicely. There is some other elements, and it's beyond the light fixtures that were done. I'd like to see in the final plan. The windows, the sliders were changed on this. We just had a discussion in a previous one, whether sliders should come to the board or not for discussion. I think we need to discuss it. It's not going to the merits. I think it looks good. But it wasn't brought as part of the plan. So here's my motion. That we deny the plan as proposed today. That the hole.
You can't do that. It's an ARC request, Mark. It's a vote by the board. You're putting a motion in front of a vote. I don't know if that's proper protocol.
We need a motion in order to vote.
With a motion, the motion has to be seconded, then there's discussion, and then there's a vote. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. So I'm making a motion that the plan be denied. That the hole in the end of the porch itself be filled, that the window remain in place. That would be subject to a new plan being brought before the board that would include the window and any other of Tiamarron's properties that are limited to common properties that were impacted by this build, be included in the plan, and that we vote on it in the next quarterly meeting.
I'm gonna let that sit and pause. I've been asked for a restroom break. So let's keep this one really short.
the deck, to make it like when they purchase the place, it looking like it. And that if the, parties, preferably if the parties agreed and compromise, to come back to the board with a new plan that we would vote on and be.
The only thing I would add for consideration is a time frame for them to come back with before we require the return leave. In other words, before we fill the gap, the hole, whatever you just called it.
By the next board meeting?
You get in the winter though.
And again,
But that's the deck.
We can always do a special. board.
Yeah.
what I've been told by the roofing contractor is situate, the condition of the deck right now is preventing the roof from going on. If we wait long enough, that water shield is gonna go past in 6 months.
How is that?
How is that affecting the roof?
That shouldn't be affecting the road.
No.
Everybody's got the openings. I
No,
got
I'd like
that.
to hear
We can-
Ross
Yeah,
say
we can
that.
talk about
I'd
that
like
on
to hear
Monday
that.
too.
Put them as-
On Monday as well. Yeah,
I'm
that
just
might be
repeating
hearsay.
what I said.
The
But
gables were preventing the roofs from being finished. I know that that's what the heat and water shield, if the gables
Whether
not
there's an
finished.
opening there or
Yeah,
not
it's
makes,
the gable.
has nothing to do with.
No, it's
what
the
I think.
gable.
and I would support closing it in deference to the owners of 725, because that is the long-standing tradition. Right, you know, they're giving them deference, is the long-standing tradition of care. As has been explained to me by many old timers, Rick is in the back of the room.
My thinking is that we're not done here, and I don't think this can be resolved at the second. I think we still have some discussion between the two owners, and maybe have some kind of compromise.
So if our decision is approved tonight today, I know that we're ready to approve.
Stacy, I apologize. We were recording, but we were muted while the motion was being made. So if we can just repeat the motion in the second.
I make a motion to move forward on an approval for the Thomas's request of 726.
I seconded.
I interpret that to be that you're moving to approve the request.
Approve the request, yes,
And you're
sir.
seconding that motion.
Yes, so that we can take a vote.
Is there any more discussion? Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call vote. Andy?
No.
Scott?
Yes.
No,
No.
no.
With the caveat that if the owners maybe by October 30th can reach a compromise and come back to us with a written ARC request.
I think you've taken a vote, and so the board has acted.
Right.
I
This is
think-
just-
I think it would be in order for the board, probably through the president, to communicate with both parties that the board is open to a compromise if it can be reached. But, and probably, I don't know how you all feel, so it's not me, too. I mean, you could delay temporarily the requirement to return it to, but you better put a time limit on that deliberation.
Right, so October 30th is what I consider a reasonable time period, especially since they're gone until the 15th.
So, I mean, but that is not part of the motion.
No, it's not part of
It's
the
not,
motion.
not part of the motion.
That's just
This is just the
discussion.
board attempting to solve the problem in another fashion. And you don't need a vote on that.
And if they would like a board member. If they would like a board member to help mediate the conversations, I'm sure we can arrange that, but at this point. There's not a clear path forward. On this, and for me, a big difference came in with the DCCRs, which are the governing document. I've been focused on the ARC documents, but the DCCRs are very clear that there has to be a written request. And written approval and, so. I think that's where we put this.
Stacy, can I ask a question?
You can,
Everything got real fast and real quiet. I didn't hear a lot of that. I have two questions. One is, I thought that the purpose of this was to, based on legal interpretation, to go back and have an original vote. We keep referring to how the process was done incorrectly, and we acknowledge that. So I thought that this was pretending like it was an original vote, that was a question, yes or no. And then ultimately, I didn't hear what everybody said. So I don't know if it was yes, no by everybody. Can we repeat that for me?
Everybody, Cheryl was a yes, everybody else was a no, because we're not ready to proceed, and if we can't approve, we have to deny.
Okay.
With the suggestion that you guys have some time to come together and figure this out.
And offering the board members a mediator.
And remember that the board is saying that opening has to be closed, brought back to original with siding. The window has to be brought down, but it's gonna be the same size window operable. It does not have to have blinds. It does have to have blinds. That's not our purview, so that would not come back to us. It has to go back to the original state of the size window that it was operable.
And
All the board can vote on.
And JT, I also shared that for me, a big element of this, and I'm gonna say this again. We are a board of volunteers. We are not or condominium lawyers. We're not HOA specialists. Most of us have full-time jobs. We do our very best. And so I've been combing through this ARC document, but this one sentence in the middle of our very wordy DCCRs, which they trump the ARC, says you have to have written request and written approval. And that trumps what I've been studying here. And I, we are a board of people working very hard. And sometimes if there is a misinterpretation or a misstep, we work hard to correct it. And that's what's happened with me today, is everything I looked at in the ARC document was just trumped by that one sentence in the DCCR.
So can you explain what written would be? So that we have that explanation going further, what written request?
Written is email.
So the email request that I sent from Jim would be,
I'm talking about the original.
oh, the original, okay. Just want to make sure we have that.
So today was basically a waste. That was the whole process today, based on your legal guidance or that you got, was to provide you written request that we didn't do before. So the reality is that now holds no water. So it becomes more confusing.
In light of the DCCRs, which was just brought to my attention, that one sentence. John?
I'm not sure there's anything in the policy that contradicts.
Right, it's just not, it's a little ambiguous.
I understand. Would like to suggest that, again, board took an action today, just now, to deny the request as is. I think the board can now proactively approach the owners, the two owners, trying to figure out if there's a way to salvage something here. So that's what I think you did.
Yes, that's what we did.
Before we leave this topic, and again, just on the rules issue, I want to address one thing Mark said. And by the way, my experience, Joe's experience, we would both agree that over the many years that we have observed this, owners are consulted and that owners' opinions do matter. I'm not sure that it is 100%. I can think of one particular one where an owner made an objection that did not seem reasonable to the board, and the board said, sorry, that doesn't seem reasonable. And the board went ahead and approved it, even though an owner objected. So it's not, again, it's not a veto, but Mark is right. Joe, I think would agree. It's often been very seriously considered.
Yeah, I know the situation you talked about.
Yeah.
And as mentioned in Stacy's here, there's another situation, from my point, where the board upheld the owner's
objection.
protest
Yes,
and remedial action. Had to be taken.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not a black and white. The other thing I wanted to mention is that, you know, and I'm not sure exactly what you meant when you said this, Mark, but policy cannot be changed on the spot. Yeah, I think I heard you say we could change the policy today.
Well, I think that the DCCRs say that in an open meeting, policies on rules and such can be changed.
But they have to be,
But it
owners
has
have
to
to
be an open meeting and full light of day.
and owners have to be notified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prior,
And that goes back to my point, if it's something that affects all owners in Cameron, all owners would be apt to be notified and let them have their.
they, we have the obligation, you have the obligation, I keep saying we, sorry. You have the obligation as a board to, if you're going to change a bylaw, a policy, or a rule that affects owners, you have the obligation to tell owners that this change will be considered at such and such date, on a meeting on such and such date. So in other words, you can't come into a meeting and change a rule without having notified owners that you are going to do it.
Right.
Or going to consider.
Right.
Just to clarify, I didn't want that to.
Back to my,
Yeah.
my nerdy duty of loyalty, that's one of our duties.
Okay, next item on the agenda is going right from this. I'm gonna try to keep this concise. We can see why we need to talk about this, that our ARC policy and structure needed around it. Again, reiterating. We are a group of volunteers. We do our best, and when something comes up, we go to policy. But we haven't been doing this for decades. We are not lawyers. If mistakes are made, the board in very good faith works to correct them. And along those lines, I think we need to revisit some of the ambiguities in our policy as well as build structure around it. Cameron's navigating a very changing environment physically, staff-wise, economically. Since our director of maintenance left, he is all throughout this process. We've had 3 managers who didn't prove themselves up to the task. We have Bobby who's functioning as that, but we recognize that there is a conflict of interest because his company does a lot of the remodels, so therefore he's approving his work. There is nothing untoward there at all. Bobby just has assumed that role because it was needed, and as always, Bobby rolls up his hands and gets to work and just says, tell me what Tamron needs. So we need to figure that out. We also need to address committee size. It says a committee of 3. We have 1. She's a very busy board member and now
Nobody
she's
will
doing
make
this
it.
and nobody will help her. We need a tracking system so we can build out a checklist of all the requirements and track that they were all considered. Does this need a permit? What kind of permit? Have the inspections been done? Do we have all the drawings? And then ending up with a final review of the project and have all the paperwork been signed. And then we'll have a history, a digital history of changes. So there are a lot of things and a lot of structure that we need to talk about. We're not going to make decisions today, but I'm just really recommending to the board that we focus on this and getting it updated to avoid confusions like this in the future. Some other areas where we need to build out, we have aging doors, lights that can't be replaced anymore, so we're having to substitute. Maybe what we can do is identify some quick hits. Storm doors, if somebody wants a storm door, what are the 3 storm doors on our property that we've approved for other people?
I have pictures.
Yeah, do we have to do a full ARC request at a board meeting for somebody to get a storm door? Right now we do. Does that make sense with our 50-year-old property? Or can we perhaps agree on some models of lights, doors, everything else that would be a quick approval that wouldn't cause a 3 or 4 month delay in the work?
But still
We
would be
have-
approved
We
by.
have done that unofficially in the past.
unofficially. I would like
We
to,
have to be.
They've done,
we
had a,
have to-
they've had a list of the things that the board could approve, basically with the rubber stamp.
And that, I'd love to have that, and I'd love to start on that. and
I don't know if I can find it.
But
I'll
maybe
try.
we can talk to Dave.
and maybe but I want to amend our policy so that when we do that rubber stamping, we're not going against our policy. So we have a lot of clarity here, and y'all are going to be hearing from me on this. And we have an owner who wants to speak to this. Dan Noonan has experienced some disruption that he wants to share with us, and it further speaks to this topic. Do you want to come up, Dan?
Dan at 7:28. It's been a long day for you. You will receive 7 pages of my concerns, thoughts, clarifications that I think you should know, and I think some of you listen to them. And then reminding you what your DCNRs say, what our committee rules say, what the amendments say, and what the contractor's policy states. So I will say this without further keeping you. Be on your committee if you want me, or I'll be on a committee to look at all the issues and get out of your hair. So you make that decision and then.
Thank you, Dan. And I'd like to say, just so everybody knows, as far as the Bobby and VHP, I try and stay a step forward. I was 18 steps back on yours, unfortunately. Going forward, we're making sure, just as we saw with Kira, I am going through the processes as the processes are supposed to be done. I'm willing to start the tracker to make sure. I've talked to both Bobby and Greg because there does seem to be some issue with Bobby doing the remodels, and we are separating that group if the board agrees, where Bobby is our director of maintenance and he is Tamron, and Greg will work with me. Greg and I have been working together on other issues and on other things that he's doing. And Bobby would be would be Tamron, and Greg would be the face of BHP remodel, so that Bobby had no say so, there's no conflict of interest. And I think that that's a way we could move where it would be a cost saving instead of bringing in somebody to have to mitigate that.
Sure, that's a great idea.
And Greg is, and he was gonna stay, but we told everybody they could leave, but Greg is on board with that, and that would make it so that anybody doing a remodel in the future would not talk to Bobby. It would be Greg and I only, and all our reviews come to me first instead of that director of maintenance position, so that I'm making the decision on whether there's a conflict of interest or not. And I'm the one making it with my board members or my committee members, and then bring it to the board. It takes that conflict out, and I think that will help us a great deal. And I know as a contractor what needs to be done. Dan knows that. We are now going to go forward and make sure all of the boxes are checked.
Thank you, Cheryl. So more to come on that.
Stacy, at one time you wanted me to speak on that subject.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
It's okay, I don't have much to say.
yes. No, you go ahead. Let me reset my clock.
Okay. Guilty. My personal opinion, I think the ARC guidelines as they stand are pretty solid, and they have at least a 20 or 30-year history that shows that. They just have to be followed. There is a couple of little bumps in the road that need to be corrected, and to prevent what just took place through this last evolution is at the end of the supplement, there is a sign off where the board signs it off. I'm going to say a very similar form at the front end, to where the contractor and the owner read and acknowledge and sign that they've read the guidelines and they understand what they're supposed to do.
We have that, the contractor policy, it's in there.
No, I'm talking about the owner.
Well,
not the
we're
contractor.
Supposed to sign that contractor policy.
I-
I'm pretty
No.
sure that
I-
we have both of them, and it's just not being done.
Whatever.
I think we can take that under.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
don't-
don't-
Okay.
That's the kind of thing we want built out on a checklist tracker.
Yeah.
Did we get
Okay.
this done? Did we
Yeah,
get this?
no,
Because-
everybody should start at the beginning with both and I thought that we had that, Byron. If we don't, it needs to be put in place, but the contractor and the owner are both supposed to start signing off, giving deposits and everything else.
Contractor policy comes after
The
the ARC,
approval.
the ARC submittal and the board approval.
Correct. That's
That's
correct.
when the contractor policy comes into effect.
Yep.
Okay,
Right, so that's a good suggestion.
good
Thank you.
suggestion. It started at the beginning.
Good thing to
That
consider.
they know and acknowledge that they understand.
That's a very good suggestion. Anything
You
else?
want me to email?
Yes. I can press stop now?
Yes.
Stop it.
Okay. Okay.
Under 2 minutes?
Get a PR, the first one.
Get through your stack.
Stacy still has stuff.
I do, really quickly, Staff role in emergencies, Tamron Tamron 1.0, 2.0. For a long time, people would call the front desk or call Gary or Dave Dunn and say, hey, can you go check on my daughter? Or can you, she hasn't answered her phone in a couple days, or I think that my brother fell, can you go check and, you know, we cannot be doing welfare checks as staff and as maintenance. We are not going to be in the welfare check business anymore. It creates a liability for us, as well as endangering any, you know, sick or injured person by delaying the 911 call. Because we take our key, we go down to the property, open the door, and oh, look, Stacy's having a heart attack from all the stress she is enduring. And I think, yeah, we probably should call 911. We're not experts. So if anybody has a welfare check need, our answer will be call 911 or we'll call 911. But we will no longer be going to people's units to do welfare checks. And I don't think it happens all that often, but some of the longer term owners do expect that. And that is not a service that we're providing. And we'll put a little something in a blurb in the newsletter, I think, to just tell people, if you have an emergency, call 911. Don't call Gary, don't call Elisa, don't call maintenance, call 911. But that's it. And the other thing I wanted to remind people, Gary, we were going to talk about this, but we're trying to get communication to the board in writing. If I'm on my walk and you want to complain about the weeds, don't stop me on my walk and complain. Number one, I'm not necessarily on duty, speaking to the whole volunteer thing. But number two, I might run into 5 people by the time I get home and I forget our conversation. I do that a lot. So much better to contact the board. All of our information is on the website until we have a different contact communication method. But if you have a question, if you have a complaint, if you have a compliment, those would be super nice to hear. But please send us an email. It establishes history. It allows it to be accurately shared among board members. And just doing business in writing is a better practice. That's it for me.
Stacy, could I just add, since emergencies, one of the things that was approved with the fire safety plan that we negotiated with the fire marshal is an emergency fire safety plan. Gary, I believe you've got it. If not, I'll get it to you.
I think I do, yeah.
Gathering locations, you know, and phone numbers for contacts, essentially a cookbook of what would happen if there was ever a fire. And that might be worthwhile to post on our site.
Okay. In absence of anything else, I move.
I second that.
All in favor?
All in favor.
Opposed?
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, everybody.